Welcome back to the first board session of the fall semester. As we're running late, I think it'd be a good idea for us to just move on to the business at hand. Let's go to 3.1, call to order. It's 6:27 on the 14th. And let us do the Pledge of Allegiance. May I have Trustee Delphine Polk, if you are in the room, or Trustee Withrow? I think Trustee Delphine Polk is not yet in the room. Trustee Withrow, could you lead us, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance? Trustee Withrow? Am I the only one that's not hearing him? All right, let's move on to Trustee Delphine Polk. Okay, strike two. Let's move on to Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen. Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, here we go. Everybody with me?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Thank you.
I think that's the first time in like 10 years I've led pledge. So thank you for the opportunity.
Well, you know what? Next board meeting, you should also do it. All right, let's go on to 3.3. Madam Board Clerk, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Hogan.
Here.
Student Trustee Cooper.
Here.
Trustee Withrow.
Please change the name.
Trustee Jenkins.
Oh, I see. It's to Ethereus. Okay.
Here, can we unmute Altheria?
Trustee Handy.
Here.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Here.
Trustee Bonilla.
Present.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen.
Right here.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's move on to 3.4, the affirmation of the statement of cooperation. And as per usual, I'll start off and read the affirmation of the statement of cooperation to give us the framework for tonight's and every night's meeting. Number one, the board is continuing to work on trust in and among our members. Number two, we agree to listen and seek to understand others and opposing viewpoints with the expectation of good intentions and a deep commitment to the district's students. Number three, we commit to being prepared for each meeting and to work within our established communication protocols when we seek additional information. Members will review the agenda in advance of each meeting and adhere to Board Policy 2340 for adding items to the agenda. Number four, we have reviewed the board's code of ethics and commit to reviewing it annually at our organizational meeting to remind ourselves of the behavior we are to exhibit and the guidelines we are to follow in our role. Number five, if the code of ethics is violated, we commit to follow the process stated in the code and will first address concerns informally to settle disagreements one-on-one between and among members before moving to the formal process. Number six, we agree that from time to time, the chair, myself, will remind members of appropriate behavior and may call for a recess or redirect members if they stray from the topic of discussion. Number seven, we collectively recognize that it is within the duties and authority of the chair to render decisions or take actions to keep our meetings on track in adherence to board policy. And my favorite two, we will strive as a board to fulfill the vision we established for ourselves. And number nine, we will model the behavior we want others to exhibit. Thank you for that. Okay, now we are on to 3.5, report of action taken in closed session. Vice President Gonzalez-Yuen, do we have anything?
Thank you. We do, Madam President, members of the public, and staff. At tonight's closed session, the board voted on the following items. Item 2.2, public employee appointment. The ratification of the appointment of Albert Maniol excuse my pronunciation, I'm quite sure that's wrong, Maniaol, as the Director of Academic Affairs in the district office at a salary of $103,759 annually, effective August 16, 2021 through June 30, 2023. This position reports to the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs. And then we also voted on the recommendation to appoint Patricia Mendoza as the interim College Director of Financial Aid at Berkeley City College at $109,523 annually, effective September 2021 through June 30, 2022. And that position reports to the Vice President of Student Services. I made the motion, which was seconded by Trustee Bonilla, and there were 7 aye votes: Withrow, Jenkins, Handy, Delphine Polk, Bonilla, myself, and President Napoli Abella Reese, 0 noes and 0 abstentions. The board also approved the settlement in the case number RG19005482, Government Code Section 54957. On my motion, seconded by Trustee Bonilla on a 7-0-0 vote. Trustees Withrow, Jenkins, Handy, Delphine Polk, Bonilla, myself, and President Napoli Abella Reese all voting aye. That concludes the closed session readout for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Let's move to 3.6, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion for the agenda approval? Thank you, Trustee Withrow.
Second.
Second, Trustee Bonilla. Roll call?
Yes.
Student Trustee Hogan,
Here.
Student
Yes.
Trustee Cooper,
Here.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
Trustee Handy,
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan,
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 3.7, approval of the minutes. May I have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Jenkins. Let's do roll call.
Student Trustee Hogan,
Yes.
Student Trustee Cooper,
Yes.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
Trustee Handy,
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan,
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. 3.8, Associated Student Government Reports. Do we have any student leaders in the room?
We do, and I will move them over.
Fantastic. Thank you, Maisha.
You have Harry Mapplethau?
Mapodile.
Mapplethau, I'm so sorry.
Yes, no problem, Maisha.
That was terrible. And Bilal Hamran.
Great. Harry, welcome.
Hello everyone. So I'm just going to go over the goals for the associate for ASBCC. So one of our goals is to increase. We have 4 goals, and one of them is to increase student awareness over resources at BCC. So the previous ASBCC had many strategies and ideas of using Canvas as well as faculty relationships to increase the knowledge and the awareness of the resources. So that's one thing we want to continue from the previous administration. And then one of the next goals is to increase club participation at BCC, especially online, which is quite a challenge. So this is one of the goals we have this year to do. And then the next one is to increase to fill up all the participatory governance roles and the committees, the government committees. We actually last week, we appointed one Senator, J. Adams Austin, to the Student Services Committee. So this week we'll be appointing more. So we're making progress with that goal. And then the next is to revamp the mascot at BCC. So many students want the mascot to be changed. They have many ideas, and we're getting also arts professors involved in this. So it's going to be very interesting what results we get there. And then Welcome Week at BCC was a humongous success. And we managed to help many students register for classes as well as vaccine clinics. And yeah, and we also managed to create many fun events, fun game events for students. So this semester seems to be very interesting, and that's the end of my report.
Wonderful. First of all, welcome and congratulations, Harry. Second of all, thank you for doing the fine work of getting students involved during this time. I know that that's been really difficult. And then you will let us know what happens with the mascot, right?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Bilal, you're up.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bilal Humran. I'm the president of Associated Students of Laney College. A few updates that I wanted to provide to the Board of Trustees was that over the past couple of weeks, we have been rigorously recruiting and conducting interviews to enhance the student government at Laney College. It's been a little difficult due to the virtual setting, but we are in the process of completing the vacancies that are still available. As well, we also had a successful week of events during Virtual Welcome Week. And it was a week of meeting student leadership, movie night, game night, a night of learning how to organize and create student clubs. And finally, we ended the week with Financial Aid Info Night, where we went over financial aid resources available at Laney and throughout the Peralta system, from book vouchers to EOPS, FAFSA, and also assisting the people who attended with signing up for late classes and so forth. Last week, we also just finalized our approval of the accreditation provided to us by Dr. Absada. Thankfully, it was a unanimous vote. We want to remain accredited. We want to get those degrees. Secondly, for September 17th, we are holding a Constitution Day virtual movie night. We will be showing 13th, a powerful documentary, Netflix original documentary, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And we are going to be holding different events. We've created a whole list of events that we will have throughout the school year, from Women's Engagement Week and Women's Month and Black History Month in February, and many other events to come along throughout the next couple months or so. So, but we've planned out all the events we want throughout even spring. So that's pretty much it.
And Bilal, again, thank you and congratulations to you. You sound incredibly busy just listening to your list of things and events, but I am really excited that our student leadership and all that you're doing is truly going to be helping our colleges and our district. Fantastic. Welcome.
Thank you. We appreciate you all. Thanks.
Do we have any more student leaders?
All that I, unless, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right, let's go to 3.9, District Academic Senate Report.
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I think we're at 3.9 Academic Senate.
You mean the Peralta Classified Senate?
Oh, I have it as, my apologies. I have
Terrence can go first.
Yes, okay. I have it as 10, Peralta Classified Senate. Hi, Terrence. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, then. Good evening, President Reese, members of the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Jackson, presidents, and guests. Tonight, we have 2 classified Senate campus reports. The first report comes from the Berkeley City College Classified Senate. Berkeley City College had its first official classified Senate meeting with the newly elected officials on September 8th, with record attendance of 36 classified professionals. On Flex Day, August 21st, the Senate leadership team held a workshop with over 30 participants titled, "What Makes BCC Great?" where professionals learned about their personality type and those of their colleagues to understand others' work style as well as their own. The workshop was geared towards learning how to use our personal strengths to enhance service to students and the BCC community. The Classified Professional Leadership has created a Classified Employee of the Quarter to recognize the excellent work that classifieds contribute.
A certificate of recognition and a gift card will be presented to the nominee at the next September 29th Classified Senate meeting. The second report comes from the Laney College Classified Senate. The new membership for the 2021 to 2023 Laney College Classified Senate is President Hope Lane, Vice President Joseph Caroma, Secretary Arlene Lontock, Parliamentarian Gary May, Publicist Cassandra Upshaw, Treasurer Vincent Garrett, and Senators Lewis Goltz and Nia Ford. The Laney Senate is updating our webpage to include important information for classified professionals and the Laney community. Senate meetings will take place every fourth Thursday at 3 p.m. That's the end of the campus reports. Thank you very much for your support of the Peralta Classified Senate.
Thank you, Terrence, for that. Let's go to 3.9, District Academic Senate Report.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, President Reese, trustees, Chancellor Jackson, and district and college administrators. My name is Eleni Gastis, and I am the Academic Senate President at Laney College, the Journalism Department Chair, and the advisor to Peralta's only student-run publication, The Citizen. I am here tonight on behalf of District Academic Senate President Donald Moore to deliver the first DAS report of the year as we embark on the fall 2021 semester. Who would have thought that what began as a shift to online learning in April 2020 would have now lasted almost 2 years? It is hard to believe that 662,000 Americans and 4.5 million people around the globe have lost their lives. So many members of our Peralta community have been affected by this pandemic. As we continue to live this new normal, we are grateful for the vaccines that have saved countless lives. At Peralta, some faculty have been lucky enough to slowly start a return to face-to-face classes. And I, not to brag, am one of those lucky faculty. I want to remind the board and the administration that faculty are here because we thrive off of the interactions with our students. We want to be with them. We live for the light bulb moments, the moments where we learn about their lives and the fact that they have entrusted us to contribute to their academic journey. However, faculty also want to feel safe, as do students, classified professionals, and administrators. We hope that the trustees, district office, and chancellor will continue to plan for and execute a return to campus that is thoughtful, timely, communicated properly, and puts the well-being of our community first. An essential part of this planning is communication, which should be disseminated in many forms so that it is accessible to everyone. Through collegial consultation and collaboration, we encourage the district office to ask those of us on the ground with a wealth of information about our campuses and our students for input. It is also paramount to us that the district communicates thoughtfully and frequently with students about everything that they need to know. After all, none of us would be here without them. Tonight, there is a renewal for PeopleSoft licensing on the agenda. And as we all know, IT at Peralta has had, well, its ups and downs. Thank you to those of you who arranged a listening session at Merritt College to learn about students' struggles to enroll in classes, and you might have read about it in The Citizen. As Peralta continues to face declining enrollment, it has come up in so many meetings, and not just the District Academic Senate, that our IT infrastructure might not be where it needs to be. We are thankful for the latest changes that have been made, yet students have reported things like mobile pages not loading properly and not being able to access class schedules due to errors. Sometimes one browser works and the other doesn't. If you were to try enrolling yourselves, and I encourage you to do so, you'd see that there are many obstacles students face before they can actually enter a physical or virtual classroom. And our students might be resilient, but we should still try to make our enrolling in our classes and all of the amazing programs we have to offer at Peralta a supportive and seamless process. We are all well aware of the digital divide and its connection to the important equity goals of our district. We've got to get this right. It's disappointing that although some students face challenges enrolling, fake bots or phantom students have been able to infiltrate classrooms in a quest for fraudulent financial aid. Some faculty have had more than half of their courses filled with these fake students. Perhaps the biggest tragedy of all, as it happened to me this summer, is that my class filled up to the cap with fake students before I even knew that this was an issue. And I just cringe knowing that students did not enroll in my class because they thought it was full when it actually wasn't. Although the district has taken steps to try and mitigate what turns out to be a very large statewide issue, we hope that they will continue exploring ways to outsmart the scammers and learn from other districts that are battling the same problem. We also hope faculty will not be penalized for low productivity or low enrollment if their classes have been infiltrated by these fake students. Faculty are excited to have access to HERF funding at our colleges, and we hope that the final round of institutional funding will be disseminated to the colleges. We hope that District General Services and the district will give us an accounting of any HERF money that they have kept on behalf of campus readiness and what those specific items were. HERF funding is an opportunity to equip our campuses with the technology we need to serve students in our classrooms. Perhaps you've heard of HighFlex classrooms. HighFlex learning is the latest thing, where students can attend class in person and virtually at the same time, which could be a big answer to our enrollment crisis. This would give students the flexibility they need to attend classes while balancing the rest of their lives. We could also provide air filters for our classrooms. As we know, COVID is airborne, or even provide microphones for faculty, because lecturing with a mask is super challenging. I don't know if anybody's ever tried it. The Senates are busily reading drafts of the accreditation report that is due to the ACC-JC on October 1st. The faculty have had presentations about the report, and there will be more feedback opportunities before October as we close the loop on this essential and very important 10+1 function. Lastly, the District Academic Senate wants you to know that at our last meeting, we made a motion to challenge the false allegations in the Alameda County Civil Grand Jury report. This report alleged that the District Academic Senate committed violations of the Brown Act. We investigated and gathered documentation from each DAS member in attendance, and the unsubstantiated claim that there were a majority of DAS members or trustees attending the meetings in question is simply not accurate. We look forward to seeing the district's response. Lastly, faculty look forward to working hand in hand with the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Jackson, the district administration, and the college administration to tackle the issues that I've spoken about tonight head on and find solutions that serve our students first, foremost, and always. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lenny, for that. Now we are at 3.11, public communication. Vice President Gonzalez-Yuen, do we have any commenters or people who would like to speak?
We do, President Napoli-Bella-Reese. We have 10 people signed up, and Sasha, if you can just let them all in at this point.
I'll go ahead and do
that would
trustee.
be great. And also, I guess it's Maisha, you're doing that?
Yes.
Thank you. From the list, we have Esther Chang, this is for the public, Melvin Music, Katero, Ricky White, Lenise Jones, Richard Doley, Barbara Widhelm, Bilal Hamran, Harry Mapadile, and that might be a mistake because he just did the report, and then Monica Henestrosa. Which of those people is here right now?
I just moved over Esther Chang, Melvin Music, Ricky White, Lenise Jones, Barbara Wildham, and I don't see Monica yet. I'm going to move over Richard Doley as well.
Okay, well, why don't we start at the top with Esther? And Madam President, we just have 10.
Okay.
They might not all be here. Our normal amount of time is 3 minutes.
Yes.
And I, with the consensus of the board, I don't see a reason to modify that tonight.
Agreed.
So Speaker Esther Chang, you are up and have 3 minutes. Welcome to the board meeting and thank you for coming. I'd like to hear what is on your mind. Esther Chang over here in the room yet?
No, I'm trying to promote them and they are not going over.
Okay, I'm going to do this a
Sasha, can
little
you
bit.
try that?
I'm going to do this a little bit randomly then, because I can just look and see who's in the room. And I see Lenise Jones is in the room. Welcome. Why don't we have you just start, and we'll go there. And it looks like Ricky White is saying that they want to cede their time to you. So I think that gives you 6 minutes. So you can stand forth, hold forth for a while here. Please, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Chancellor Jackson, President Reese, Board of Trustees, College Presidents, and our beloved Peralta community. Good evening. My name is Laney Jones, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of the Peralta Colleges Foundation since 2018. And as you know, the foundation exists to support the academic excellence and success of students throughout the district. We do this by focusing on building partnerships and raising funds for student scholarships, supplies, and programs at the district's 4 colleges. And tonight, I would like to brief you all on the foundation's most recent accomplishments, as well as the foundation's next steps in fulfilling our mission and reaching our goals. Despite the challenges of COVID-19, the foundation has successfully created a COVID-19 relief fund and raised and distributed $48,000 in emergency student aid to close to 300 students. And just last fiscal year, we awarded close to 300 student scholarships, which represents an investment of over $186,000. We launched a faculty innovation mini grant, which we're excited about, and awarded 8 instructors, 2 from each college, supporting their creative ideas to best engage students' remote learning experience. We completed a professionally facilitated 3 to 5 year strategic plan that includes the goal of raising $1 million to support increased student aid and college programs and district infrastructure projects identified by the Chancellor. And as a substitute to our face-to-face gala, we pivoted online and held the foundation's first virtual March Madness race towards building careers and a silent auction and live auction. And we raised over $50,000. Plus, we introduced a couple of other community building virtual events. We had a thank you toast, recognizing and honoring our scholarship application readers, and an end of the year's holiday soiree, which featured our strategic partner of the year, Eat, Learn, Play Foundation, which provided hot meals to the colleges for well over a year during the pandemic. We provided accommodations and special remarks from our Governor Newsom's office to Jose Corona, who serves as the Vice President of Programs and Partnerships. And this past summer, we organized a new professional development summer series targeting Peralta alumni with our strategic partners, Madeline Mackey, the Career Activator, Salesforce, Square, Teslio, and Facebook, with an average of 50 attendees per workshop. Since coming to the foundation, we've recruited a group of highly motivated, influential, and committed members to our board of directors. Now, as we look forward in the foundation, we're excited to bring back and pay homage to one of our longest serving board directors and your former board colleague to host the new and improved golf tournament, which we have entitled the Dr. William Bill Riley Swing for Student Success Golf Tournament, which will take place on Monday, October 25th at the private Sequoia Country Club in the East Oakland Hills. We just recently relaunched our district-wide Employee Giving Day campaign and kicked it off with offering Oakland A's tickets to attend Peralta Day at the ballpark this past Sunday, which featured our very own trustee Linda Handy providing the first pitch of the day. Last but not least, please mark your calendar for October 1st, which begins our annual student scholarship program season. And we need everyone's help to increase the turnout of student applications. We have grown to receive 400 plus applications with a goal to increase to over 500 applications. The application season ends March 1st. When at such time, we need volunteer readers to help us evaluate the application. So anyone interested in reading this year, we invite you to join our community of partners to include the Golden State Warriors, DoorDash, Salesforce, Facebook, and of course, many of our Peralta instructors and staff. In closing, we're very excited about the foundation's direction and look forward to reestablishing our partnership with the district and the Board of Trustees. This will provide the foundation with the necessary stability to realize our vision, increase our community outreach, strengthen our relationships with the colleges, which will allow us to reach our goal of raising $1 million of new dollars in the next 3 to 5 years. We look to the district, each member of the Board of Trustees, and our community partners to consider creating a scholarship in their name or contributing to the All In for Students General Scholarship Fund. We would like to see our awarding to increase from 290 to 500 scholarships, and together we can do it. The African proverb notes that when we want to go fast, we go alone, and when we want to go far, we go together. Our online portal, PeraltaFoundation.org, provides many ways to support our efforts, and you may also consider employee payroll deductions or include the foundation in your will and testament. In the past years, the district provided the foundation with an annual operational grant, and this grant supports the work of our staff and volunteers, thereby enabling us to continue building community relationships, such as we did with Eat, Learn, Play Foundation, which valued well over $1.5 million. It helps us to manage our financial net assets, our annual scholarship program, and what we would like to have is our new alumni outreach strategy, and so many more programs that, such as I mentioned earlier. With the district support that is equal to or greater than in the past years, we can sustain our momentum and strengthen our capacity to raise significantly more funds by hiring a new full-time major gifts officer who will help us focus on building a new sustainable endowment that will fund college programs and infrastructure.
And if you can wrap up, that would be great.
As previously stated, this is the wrap. Our goal is to raise $1 million. And thank you. This is the end of the report. And I can be reached at LJones@peralta.edu. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update and public comment. Let's see. I think I'm not seeing Esther Chang here. I'm seeing Jeff Sinceri. Jeffrey, you've got 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll be brief. Hello, Chancellor, the board, everybody. Good evening. I want to start by saying that I'm glad to hear that the partial tax is being used for actual classes if the estimated actuals are to be believed. That only took about 3 or 4 years of fighting to get the district to abide by the law. But what I want to talk about tonight is I'm looking at the agenda and I noticed that our faculty, our classified and engineers got what were called raises. This is great. After all, we did negotiate and push for it. On the other hand, our administrators ended up getting the same amount. And not only did they not even have to ask for it like everyone else, but for them, it was called the cost of living adjustment. I was thinking about it and it makes sense because, it is about their comfort. Because as our classes get canceled and our teachers are out of work and our classified staff are abused in the workplace with regularity, I'd like to see just a little sacrifice on the part of people that are making 150K and up. But what would that even look like? You know, for us, faculty are taking hits. Poor enrollment management means that we lose jobs and classes are canceled. Classified are going through similar stuff, all while enduring an amount of disrespect in the workplace that is kind of appalling. And our engineers are working super hard, since there are only like, what, 6 of them, I think, for all the campuses in the district office. We're all sacrificing and working hard, so a raise is not something we just got. I would like to think that we earned it. But the district doesn't seem to be making any sacrifices. In fact, they continue to hire more people to do much of their jobs for them. Our classified workforce is shrinking, our faculty is shrinking, and most importantly, our student body is shrinking. I think adding more people at the top to address these issues is not as cost effective as having qualified people to do that job in the first place. And yet, while faculty, students, and classified are all shrinking, since 2018, management at our district has grown by 15% and counting. If anyone wants to contact me about those numbers, feel free. You know where to find me. But in the meantime, I'll say goodnight. Enjoy the cost of living adjustment. California is an expensive place to live. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see. I see Richard Tholey in the room. Richard, you've got 3 minutes. Love to hear what's on your mind. Thank you so much.
Yep, good evening. It's good to be back, even though you may not be able to see me now. It's great to see you all, and want to welcome everyone back to a new academic year. And it's exciting to hear the students and how the associated student unions are working to gear up and engage their students. And really, it's an exciting time, I think, to hear them be excited to come back to school and fully engage. And I do look for leadership, you know, from the Chancellor and leadership from our human resources administrators, that when they do start requiring staff to come in, that they do that, they take that leadership role and come in and do a somewhat of a walkthrough, you know, and make sure that the facilities are safe for our students, are safe for our faculty, are safe for staff and the community. And so I look forward to that as well. I echo some of the sentiments that Jeff Sinceri just kind of put out there, because it is a sacrifice to go in. It's a very daunting process to go into negotiations, take time off of work and still have work waiting there for you. It's a team, it's a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication, and it really is a lot of effort on everyone's part. On top of that, the communication with the rest of our members and the back and forth and fielding questions, we do take a lot of responsibility. And while we don't want to seem to be, you know, communicating that we want to take away, the thing is that we are not in the process of decision-making at the highest levels, right? So we've seen administrators come and go, and while classified and faculty have called out some misgivings, some potentially illegal, you know, acts by the district, you know, those managers, those administrators get to come and go while we sit here holding the ball and keeping the district pushing for our students. You know, so I would like you to consider, you know, that portion, but that is not my decision. One thing I do want to focus on very briefly before I end is the kind of the appalling situation that continues in the Department of General Services. In the past, we have brought folks from that department in an attempt to bring light some issues that were going on in the department. So that's taken place. We have seen some improvement in that one particular area. However, we still have 4 classified staff, SEIU members, that have been working out of class for a year. So this month, all 4 of them have been working out of class for a year, assuming duties that are outside of their classification, because I assume they're short-staffed there, right? And it just come to light that there are some other issues that we thought were happening in the department, and it's just come to light and it's been brought to our attention. And we're hoping that the Chancellor, with some guidance from the Board of Trustees, can help resolve these issues very soon. On top of that, we have some reclassification issues in that department where folks have won a reclassification. So all these are compounding and really impacting our staff in that department.
Start
I'll
to
look
wrap
forward.
up, Richard.
Yes,
Thank you.
and I'll look forward to the next meeting where I could bring some positive updates and some positive news, along with some other areas of concern. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Richard Tholey. Let's see. I saw, sorry, I'm having to jump around on pages, and it looks like some people have disappeared who were
Yeah,
here.
I think that they
Let's-
were with Laney's, and they
Okay.
ceded their time to her, and they are gone now.
Okay, Barbara Whitholm, I see you here. Please, welcome.
Thank you for having me here. Board of Trustees, Chancellor Jackson, administrators, staff, students, community members. My name is Barbara Witheim. I'm adjunct faculty currently in the Humanities and Philosophy departments at Laney College and Merritt College. And previously also I managed the National Science Foundation grant for many years for Laney College. I also teach at various other colleges in the Bay Area all the way to the doctoral level, and my specialty areas is systems thinking. I'm here to ask you to consider additional scientific perspectives when it comes to the reopening guidelines, specifically the pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical guidelines, including the mandatory vaccinations. I'm trained in systems thinking. I'm a systems scientist. And as a system scientist, I look at patterns and trends over time. I look at the impacts of structures and rules that we set in place and what impacts these rules may have months, years, and decades from now. I'm also a mom of a college-age student, and as a teacher, I subscribe to the tenet of do no harm. Let's do no harm. I know that nobody here wants to do any harm to our students, but I'm concerned that unintentionally and inadvertently, the vaccination mandates as they currently stand will lead to more harm, could lead to more harm than good for our specific student population in their context. Looking at the available data that's coming in, the data signals that are coming in, from a variety of sources. And again, there's no scientific consensus as the public health agencies might have us believe. It is very likely that some of our student athletes will not be able to make use of the scholarships, athletic scholarships, because of becoming ill with myocarditis, pericarditis, and in a couple of years, maybe even losing their lives on long-term consequences. It is very likely that some students participating in the on-campus vaccination clinics, getting a needle in their arm, will have their lives and livelihoods destroyed and their families be traumatized. I'm saying this looking at available data signals right now. It is very likely that some of our students participating in these clinics right now will not be able to graduate because of severe adverse reactions. It's also very likely that some of our students will not get to graduate because they're currently choosing not to come to campus because they're afraid of discrimination, afraid of undue duress. 70% are afraid of coercion. 70% of African Americans nationwide have chosen not to participate in this experimental vaccine at this point. I'm asking how the college has considered our specific student population in this context.
Thank you. You can begin to wrap up. Thanks.
Thank you. So I'm asking us to bring in scientific expertise. Dr. Chulapado with UCLA has agreed to come and testify. He's a health scientist and researcher. And let's ask questions like, what's the risk-benefit ratio? What are data signals telling us? How are Black and Brown populations affected? Second language learners. Students.
Please do begin to wrap up. You're at about 30
you.
seconds over time. Thank you. Thank you so much for your comments tonight. Maisha, is there somebody else?
I am not seeing anybody else. The other folks, there are other folks on the attendees list, but they were not registered to speak. How did you want me to handle that?
Well, I'm thinking that we have a few minutes. We had people not show. How many is it that we're talking about?
3. And they may not be to speak, but I can move them over to check.
Okay. Well, why don't
Okay.
we just double check?
Okay.
I know we've got a long meeting, but this part ran a little short, as long as people don't go too long. It's been
Okay.
a long time.
Oh, if they're gonna
I
let me.
think we're absolutely blessed for our public comment areas to be as short as they are. I would encourage the board to buckle up and prepare their ears to make more time for this sort of thing on the regular. It's probably going to be increasing in the near future quite a bit as it is.
Thank you, Student Trustee Cooper.
I'm having, me and both and Sasha are having technical issues on promoting folks from attendees, but I can see if I can allow them to talk. So I'll do that right now. Atia Rashada, I'm gonna see if I can allow you to talk.
Okay, and then the
No,
other
I'm actually just an attendee today. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
clicked the attendee button. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, lady.
Okay.
Okay, and Hoi Ko, I'm going to allow to talk. Hello,
Hello.
did you want to
Hoi.
speak?
No, I just want to listen in today.
Okay.
I have some little
Okay.
time.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
If situation arises, I'll chat. I'll type something in. Thanks.
Okay.
Maisha, why don't we do this? Let's just assume if people have not reached out to you proactively, let's assume they're here to observe but not speak. And if people do, in fact, indicate interest in speaking, let's circle back around to this. President Napoli-Bellarice, I think that concludes public comment. I'll hand it back to you.
Great. Thank you. We are now at 3.12, the Chancellor's reports. Dr. Jackson, you've got the stage.
Thank you very much, President Reese. As in the past, I would ask that the presidents provide their report, and then at the end, then there are 2 short reports that I would like to include as part of my overall presentation. One of them is by Dr. Ron McKinley, who will give an update on COVID-19, and the other one is Vice Chancellor Siri Brown, who will provide an update on fraudulent enrollments and enrollment overall for the summer and for the fall. So I will start with our traditional order, Berkeley City College, followed by College of Alameda, and then Laney College, and then the last and certainly not least, Merritt College. Thank you.
Good evening, President Napoli-Bellarice, Dr. Jackson, trustees, colleagues, and guests. The 2020 presidential election happened amidst some extraordinary levels of voter turnout. According to the Census Bureau, just shy of 67% of eligible adults cast ballots in the race, the highest since 1992, and other estimates indicate that last year's turnout bested that of 1992 and may be the highest since 1900. In addition to the written report in your packet for this evening, I'd like to take a moment to highlight some remarkable news, especially in light of today being a voting day here in California. What another amazing year for our civic engagement efforts at Berkeley City College. The intentional support and efforts from students, faculty, and classified professionals in our community increased voter turnout, educated students on issues, and created an environment of open dialogue. Now, some of the activities that were hosted at Berkeley City College include the voter registration drives, debate watch parties, political trivia nights, and educational nonpartisan voter guide on California propositions. All of that work has now garnered that Berkeley City College is proud to be included in the Washington Monthly's 2021 Best Colleges for Student Voting Honor Roll. This is remarkable news as it's testament to the movement that students and our community have to vote with their feet. And Berkeley City Colleges certainly will continue to provide this level of commitment to increase not only student voting, but community voting in our collective effort to advocate for a brighter and better future. So we are very honored to be a part of that recognition. I really want to thank and congratulate and thank Mr. John Nguyen, Director of Student Activities and Campus Life, the associated students of Berkeley City College, and key faculty and staff who all helped to organize the co-curricular events throughout last year's very emotional election and voter turnout. In our continued work of shared governance, the chairs and co-chairs of governance committees led with a part 2 of our summer retreat, where we continue to build upon our solid foundation of collegial and consultative practices. The evolving work of the college has brought this need to formalize our previously organized task forces and work groups to become standing committees. It's an opportunity for us as a college to evolve and ensure that we have the right folks at the table for key decision-making processes. On the accreditation front, Berkeley City College is in the throes of reviewing the October 1 ECCJC report in all of our shared governance spaces. I'd like to thank the work and presentations by Vice President Kunihe, who is also our accreditation liaison officer. But truly thanks to the leadership of Dr. Jackson and the collective work of colleagues across the colleges and the district. And I'm sure we're going to hear more about that in the presentation later today. And in closing, I just want to welcome our newest Berkeley City College colleagues. So this evening, Ms. Patricia Mendoza as the Interim Financial Aid Director, joining us in a few weeks. Mr. Sean Brooks as our Vice President of Administrative Services, who's been with us now since the mid-August. And for our recent tenure track faculty that were appointed previously or approved previously, but I want to note now that the academic year has started, Dr. Nima Kianfar, our tenure track English faculty member who joined us full-time this year, and Mr. Salvador Ortiz, tenure track counseling and career faculty. We are thrilled to have such amazing additions to our Berkeley City College community. That concludes my remarks for this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, President Reese, trustees, Chancellor Jackson, colleagues, and guests. I'm delighted to report on the great work that the College of Alameda has been doing over the summer, as well as highlight a few notable achievements. The fall semester is off to a good start. We have increased the number of in-person classes and adopted the district's new safety protocols. It's been wonderful to see more students back on campus. The college administrators have been working very diligently alongside our district and other college leaders in preparing our ACC-JC follow-up report and teach out plans. This work is currently being reviewed by our shared governance bodies on our campus. We began the new semester with an excellent district and college flex days. Our college flex day included equity-focused workshops funded by the college HSI grant under the leadership of Director Lira. The first workshop was entitled Applying Equity in the Era of Digital Teaching and Learning by Glendale Community College Ethnic Studies professor Fabio Torres. The other was Equity is a Journey, Understanding Race, Identity, Bias as Culturally Responsive Educators by Moreno Valley College Dean of Instruction, Ree Amasquita. I also gave a presentation that highlighted the college's 21-22 priorities, which include diversity, equity, and inclusion, guided pathways, strategic enrollment management, and fiscal stewardship. College of Alameda was awarded a $399,000 National Science Foundation grant for our Math, Engineering, Science Achievement, or MESA Connect project. Principal investigators for the project is biology professor Lisa Raymond, chemistry professor Dr. Alex Madonic, math professor, Emmanuel Herrera, and special thanks go out to our Director of Research and Planning for working with me to bring this particular grant home in its final submission. Also, we had today a free COVID-19 vaccination clinic, albeit we did not get as many takers as we would have liked. It was available to students as well as the community. Before I conclude, I wanted to share briefly with you a quote that I provided during my Flex presentation. And it says, "Happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, worn, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude." In the spirit of gratitude, I would like to thank our CA, our College of Alameda and district colleagues for all that you've done to continue to support our students and community. I'd also like to welcome Idem Ikichi as our new permanent faculty member in ESOL, as well as Josh Ross, who is our new permanent librarian for our college. This concludes my report, and thank you.
Good evening, students, Board President Reese, Chancellor Jackson, board members, colleagues in education, and valued members of our community. I would like to start off following Dr. Jones' welcome of new faculty to welcome the faculty who began full-time this fall semester at Laney. Javier Valencia in the welding department, Judy Wong in the ESOL department, Erica Williams in ethnic studies, specifically African-American studies, and Latanya Carpenter in cosmetology. With that welcome, though, also comes thanks to the many faculty, classified professionals, administrators, and especially Dr. Ron McKinley and Natasha Spivey in human resources, because a lot of work was done this summer at Laney to make these hires happen. So I would be totally remiss if I did not express my thanks. In the spirit of gratitude, I also would like to thank our Fall 2021 task force at Laney College. This group came together in May, and as you may know, at Laney College, we have brought on board the most face-to-face sections of any of the 4 colleges. In fact, in comparison to one college, we actually have 10 times more face-to-face sections going on, which makes for a lot more traffic on campus. This task force has met diligently since May, provided a number of recommendations, and also there has been collaboration, not only among faculty, staff, and administrators at Laney, but there has also been regular attendance by members of DGS, as well as the district's public information officer, Mark Johnson. So I just want to say thank you for all the work that has gone into this as we move forward, especially with this larger transition to campus, which has happened at Laney. Also in my board report tonight, you'll have our latest statistics on food distribution, which continue to go up, as well as a report on our College Flex Day. But I'd like to take the remainder of my report tonight to focus on one thing, and that's our outreach efforts. And as usual, within these efforts of outreach, there has been a theme of partnership. On August 14th and 21st, we hosted our One-Stop Saturdays and really didn't know what to expect in terms of how many students might be coming to campus, but we planned for it anyway. We planned a hybrid event, and in total, we had, during those 2 Saturdays, more than 500 students attend either virtually or, in the case of about 70%, on campus. They received a variety of forms of support in the way of student services, counseling, tech support, the distribution of Chromebooks, and we also made refreshments available. In addition to that, in both fronts, we had interpreters available to help with Mandarin, Cantonese, Spanish, and French. So really it was an event where the Laney College community reached out to the students who wanted to come to Laney. We also did not stop there. We continued with our phone banking efforts, thanks in great part to funding from the Lau Community Family Foundation. And so far, we have actually reached out via phone to over 1,600 students to check in with them, and those efforts continue. One very special event, however, that I'd like to tell you about this evening took place from a conversation that began in May. A gathering of African-American colleagues at Laney to talk about our student numbers and a recognition that we needed to increase our student numbers among our African-American students. And from that effort began a group that was called Black Laney Love. And from that group and that collaboration became an event on August 18th that was also called Black Laney Love. Again, we took the hybrid format. We welcomed students in Zoom, where Kev Choice was our guest speaker. And we also had support from SparkPoint and all of our areas of student services. On campus, in addition to on-campus counseling, we had employment, social services, outreach for the homeless, as well as housing support and human services available, with a number of community partners that joined us on the quad. And for that, I'd like to thank the Roots Clinic, the Oakland Private Industry Council, the Lau Family Community Development Foundation, Building Opportunities for Self-Sufficiency Group, Bay Area Community Services Employment as well. In addition to that, we made vaccinations available on that day. And I want to thank Amy Marshall for her leadership in making that happen. And during the whole Black Laney Love event that we had on campus, there was a constant line of people that came to receive vaccinations. So this was a great collaboration. And I mentioned some of our external partners, but I absolutely want to thank people who were there at the beginning in May. And two individuals come to mind at Laney. I think we are so fortunate to have the classified professionals president that we have for the classified Senate, Hope Lane. She was one of the people in there at the beginning. Also, faculty counselor Janelle Tillotson was also there at the beginning. We so appreciate her leadership as well. Also partnering with us was somebody you heard from this evening, Lenice Jones. She assisted us not only with the press release, but also seeking sponsorship from the NAACP for our event. And finally, someone who joined me as a partner in starting this conversation and moving things along toward this great event that happened, Dr. Lawrence Van Hook. These were great things that happened, and we are excited about this initial step that we took, and we are so welcoming of the Black Laney Love group at Laney College. As we move forward, though, we're not stopping. There will be more updates, I'm sure, from that group that I'll be so proud to share with you. Also, we have a number of late starting sections that will be coming. And with that recognition is the recognition that the same support is needed for our full semester students, which is why we are going to do one-stop events just like the One-Stop Saturday, but for our late starting classes. Also, from now until October 1st, in the Odell Johnson Theater from 1 to 3 o'clock on Fridays, we will have vaccination clinics available for students and employees. This is a very busy time at Laney College, and a lot is happening, but we're doing it together, and we're really seeing our students dream, flourish, and succeed. This concludes my report.
Thank you, President. I appreciate your update. I can tell all of you are proud of your campuses, and I am proud of all of you. I'd like to now turn it over to
Chancellor, Dr.
Chancellor,
Johnson.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Last but not least.
Oh, no, you can't say that now.
I'm sorry, Dr. Johnson.
That's okay, Chancellor. And I recognize going last is incumbent upon me to get us through this and to the next thing. So I'll be brief. Good evening, everyone, Board of Trustees, Peralta Community. It's really good to see everyone. It's been a minute. So I'll just jump right in. Want to highlight on August 20th, just last month, Merritt College was recognized alongside with ESO Ventures at the Capital in the Community press conference that was held at Liberation Park, right by Eastmont Mall, East Oakland. And the event was hosted by Councilmember Lauren Taylor, and it featured a keynote address by our very own state senator, the Honorable Nancy Skinner, who represents District 9. So for Merritt, this partnership really began 2 years ago when we partnered with ESO Ventures. And for those of you who don't know, ESO Ventures is an East Oakland early stage entrepreneurial fund and incubator that focuses on really providing the confidence, competence, and capital for aspiring African-American, Latinx, women API entrepreneurs. So the plan was to invest our regional strong workforce funds and to leverage our digital marketing certificate and our partnership with Facebook to hold these pitch competitions in the community. Long story short, Sacramento took notice, and with the advocacy of the Honorable Nancy Skinner, they gave us $8 million. They gave the community $8 million to expand entrepreneurial opportunities to our underserved community. Now, these funds are going to be managed by ESO Ventures, and they're going to support 200 new and existing business owners, okay? And these are folks, many of them heretofore have been precluded from accessing that type of investment capital. So that was a huge, huge deal, and we were very proud to be a part of it. As was mentioned a little earlier, about 2 weeks ago, Merritt College held its first in a series of our listening sessions, with that first session focusing on the student experiences with enrollment, registration, and financial aid processes. There are about 50 people who attended, and as president, I came away with really a greater understanding of the systemic issues that our students face, as well as the frustration that they feel when, seemingly easy fixes are not readily forthcoming. But what I appreciated most coming out of the experience was the fortitude on the part of our students and our classified professional staff to stay the course until we rectify the issues. So as such, I'm looking forward to the next session so that we can continue the conversation and take stock of the progress made. And I just want to give a shout out to Laney Gastis and the Citizen for their fair and balanced piece that they published about the event. Finally, I just want to acknowledge and welcome a few individuals that are going to be new to our college or new to different positions at the college. Maria Valencia is going to be our new A&R clerk. Soledad Luing is our student activities staff assistant. From the faculty side, we have Marilyn Vernado, who's now serving as the Merritt Peer Online Course Review Lead, POCR Lead. We also have two faculty members who are stepping up as part of the USDA grant I mentioned several weeks ago, the $500,000 grant. And that would be Paul Roger, who is now the director, I want to get this right, of the Urban Agroecology Marketing and Youth Leadership section, and Carrie Malsby, who steps in as the coordinator of digital marketing and youth leadership. And finally, I'm very pleased that we were able to finish up the process with 3 faculty hires, who I hope will be permanent folks at the end of this board meeting. And that is Stephanie DeVito, who's our new health services coordinator, Lizette Dominguez, who is our new child development instructor, and Taslima Raymond, who is our new mathematics instructor. Last thing, I know I said I'd be brief, but before I close, I have to give an acknowledgement to Miss Jennifer Yates, who teaches in our radiologic science program. She is retiring on January 1st, okay? She started at Merritt December 1st, 1991. She has 30 years of her life at Merritt College. She started as a 12-year-old. So she's got 30 years of her life, so she's still young. 30 years of her life at Merritt College. And in that time, she's touched countless individuals, preparing the students for productive positions and careers in rad tech, and really supporting her colleagues in building the rad tech program into what it is today. So I just wanted to take a quick moment to simply say to Jennifer, thank you. And I want you to know that you are loved and appreciated. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you, President Johnson. Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off. My apologies. We do have to close up the Chancellor's report, an update by Interim Vice Chancellor of Human Resources, Dr. McKinley, Ron McKinley, and also an update by Dr. Siri Brown, our Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs and Student Success. And I was just going to say, I hope Laney Gastis is on, because she was stealing my thunder when she said she'd hoped we would get some more information. And so ask and you shall receive. So with that, I'll ask Ron to get started. And then from there, we'll go directly into series report.
Thank you, Chancellor Jackson. Good evening, Board of Trustees, colleagues, and guests. I'll make this as quick as I possibly can. Just give you a quick update on COVID-19 and our response to that. I want to please remind everyone that this is new territory for all of us. It's the metaphor we've been using is flying an airplane while we're building it. So we've got a couple of engines bolted on. We still need to get a couple more. We don't have a door yet, but we do have a couple of seats, and there is a seat belt. I'm not sure there are enough seat belts for everybody, but that's kind of the way it feels. Another way of saying that is we're paving the road while we're driving on it. No one who is alive today has ever done any of this. The folks that are alive today from the pandemic in 1918, they were children when that happened, so they were not involved in approaching that or how it's going to be managed. So hopefully we can at least leave kind of a legacy for the folks that come after us, how someone might approach this in the future. Hopefully they don't have to, but if they do, hopefully we can leave them a little bit of knowledge. On July 30th, 2021, employees, contractors were required to be vaccinated or test weekly. It's a condition of employment for employees. Vaccination means that you can either have to be vaccinated or you have to have received an approved exemption based on medical conditions, ADA issues, disability issues, or a sincerely held religious belief. A sincerely held religious belief is not based upon a particular membership in any particular religion. It's based on being able to demonstrate a sincerity of belief that is religious with regard to vaccinations. On August 5th, that was extended by the Board of Trustees to students that they be required to be vaccinated or test weekly. And then August 23rd, limited classes began on campuses, daily screening with company nurse for employees and contractors. And that is the CDC guideline screening questions that are answered now electronically. And then using Campus Shield for students. On August 27th, employees and students must be fully vaccinated. They were notified that they must be fully vaccinated by October 7th and have an approved exemption on file. I'd like to notice folks have asked the question, why October 7th? Well, and we wanted to give folks enough time in order to get the first shot, get the second shot, and then have the 2 weeks time frame continue after that for each of them before they would be required. And folks are going to ask questions, well, what happens if I don't get the shot until October 6th? Well, that means that you have to be tested weekly until you get your second shot, and to continue to be tested weekly until the 2 weeks have run after your second shot, or 2 weeks have run after you've received the one shot Johnson & Johnson regimen. I'm having trouble getting to the second slide, so there we go, thank you. This, of course, obviously there's continued evolution on our response to COVID-19, such as pop-up clinics. You've heard about that some tonight. Planned on-site COVID-19 testing, and a vaccine redistribution site at Laney College under the auspice of the Roots Clinic protocol. They are a named clinic, and we will be able to give vaccinations to students at Laney College as a redistribution site soon. And then the COVID-19 Prevention Planner Program, which is on the board agenda for approval this evening. We are investigating the use of state COVID-19 validation services. One of the concerns that we've heard from numerous people, including students, staff, and faculty, is that what happens if a person cheats? If they falsify or mislead the district with regard to their vaccination status, what about that? Well, we can validate if they've actually received their vaccination in the state of California. We will begin to do that. I want to point out it's also in their FAQs on the Save Peralta website. that if a person falsely represents that, then disciplinary action will take place if they are a student, and the same thing would happen if they are an employee. I'd also like to caution everyone that if someone was to falsify the CDC, a federal form, which the CDC COVID vaccination card is, that is a felony, a federal felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison and $10,000 in fines. So that's a very serious thing. We've listed here the Safe Peralta website link. Encourage everyone to please visit that. There's a wealth of information, lots of FAQs. So if you have questions, that it's very likely that your question is answered on that website. And thank you very much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I didn't see any questions from the board. Are there any questions from the board before we ask Dr. Brown for her presentation?
I don't see any board. Oh, is there a board member?
Okay, if there's no questions, then Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good evening, President Reese, Board of Trustees, colleagues, and community. My report will also be very brief, as we expect to come back to the board this fall with a longer presentation about enrollment. But I did want to tonight to combine a snapshot of our enrollment and talk about the impact of the pandemic, as well as the bot false students on our colleges. Next slide, please. So as everyone knows, the declining enrollment has been impacting the entire system across the state and really across the country. And that we also are experiencing the kinds of declines that we're seeing in the headlines and in the state data mart. The nation's community colleges have declined in attendance by about 9.5%. And the community colleges anywhere from 12 to 16 to 20, even beyond, decreasing enrollment due to the pandemic. For Peralta, we're seeing that our declines are about 16% from fall to fall and summer to summer. And then on June 22nd at your Board of Trustees meeting, I reported to you about the fraudulent applications that were occurring and impacting our summer enrollment. And I included a written report for you to look at. We won't necessarily go over it, except there were a few key highlights. And that is that we have to date identified 3,473 fraudulent applications that made it past the CCC Apply system, in spite of the fact that in July, the CCC Apply system put a bot detector on their system. We're still receiving fraudulent applications from CCC Apply. We have been able to block the majority of those, 75% or more, from enrolling by using a few different methods, which I will not go into because it seems that these people are really studying us and other college districts every day, trying to figure out how to get around the filters we put up or the documentation we require, et cetera. And these false students have enrolled in 9 to 12 units each, impacting the summer and also impacting fall enrollment. As Professor Gastes reported, many faculty also emailed us with the same situation where classes appeared to be full. We go and we would remove those students, and then the very next day they'd be full again with more false students. This has been very challenging and draining to our staff. And I really want to thank the classified professionals of IT, district and college A&R for their diligence on this, because much of this is also student by student by student. So it's taking a great deal of time. And I say this also because it's going to take us a moment to really flesh through our data and look at the overall impact of the fraudulent applications. We can't do so now because we're still receiving them. To date, we believe that about $179,000 in aid has been attained through these illegal efforts. And we're happy to say that that number is small in comparison to what's happening in many other districts. And that's because of the diligence of the staff who are helping and the faculty who are helping identify classes. As a matter of fact, the Department of Education Office of Inspector General reached out to us. We met with them and we showed them the data that we have around what's happening. And they were very impressed with our data and asked us to partner with them in their investigation. And we're happy to do so. Next slide is just a look at the summer to summer FTES, residential FTS and productivity. The productivity line is in orange and the residential FTS. And it's just to give you a snapshot of what you already know, the impact of the pandemic on our annual enrollments from summer to summer. And again, representing from one summer to the next, about a 16% decline from 2020 to 2021. And the next slide shows the same thing for fall to fall. The next slide, thank you. Also, again, from fall 20 to fall 21, about a 16% decline. And you can see from fall 18, and certainly even prior to that, where our residential FTS was at, and then currently where it's at. Our target for this fall will not be met, even though there is ongoing registration and enrollment for late start classes. So the total count for fall 2021 is incomplete. We'll also have our intersession. And the next slide just gives you a snapshot. You can take a look at in more detail if you want to about what's happening from fall to fall, last fall to this fall for each college. And it's showing what's happening in terms of sections, residential FTES, as well as enrollment. And there are variations between the colleges. All efforts are going into analyzing this and other data, particularly asynchronous classes versus synchronous, all kinds of data, so that we can prepare for what we hope to have the return to campus in the spring, and be able to set a schedule and market to the community to let them know that classes will be back in person. Of course, we're waiting to find out really what will happen with that. But as we do so, all assessment evaluation is going on. And the last slide is just to say a thank you and questions or comments. But I also wanted to take a moment to thank the board for ratifying the hire of the new position, the Director of Academic Affairs, and Albert Manuel, who joined us in August, very thankfully, to take on distance education, Oakland Promise, dual enrollment, and strong workforce career education, the areas that, in spite of the pandemic, in spite of bots, are growing still very quickly. Matter of fact, we have more dual enrollment sections this semester than we did a year ago fall. So there are areas of growth. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brown. Are there any questions before we turn it back over to President Reese? Any board members have any questions?
I do. I have a question, Dr. Jackson, to Vice Chancellor Sherry Brown, or to you, Dr. Jackson. The slides that we were just looking at that had the numbers and the FTES, which are, as you had stated, Dr. Brown, in terrible decline. I'm just curious, and I don't know if I missed this, does this take into consideration the bots and the possibility that these numbers might have students in it that are not actually real students?
I think, Dr. Brown, can you address that?
I sure can. Sure. That's why I put both topics together and stated that we really have to assess the data once the fraudulent applications have stopped. And so the numbers for fall 21 are really inconclusive right now. Until we get the whole matter, or the state gets the matter under control, then we'll be able to go back and look at any fraudulent applications that we may have missed, and then verify that the data is accurate. And we really won't be able to do that, President Reese, until probably the end of the semester.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Brief one.
Go ahead, Nikki.
Thank you. Just following on that question, 3,000 plus fraudulent applications. What percentage of our classroom spaces were being eaten up by these fraudulent applications? So I'm just a similar question. You look at it and saying, well, X percent of our enrollment was fraudulent, but then along the way, they're taking up spaces and then we're getting rid of them, dropping their classes, which is killing our productivity. And at least for those, what's the impact of these fraudulent bots on that decline? Statewide, this decline is COVID, and then there's this. Do we have an assessment of the fiscal impact of the fraudulent bots in terms of productivity, enrollment?
I don't think we're going to have that kind of information until we get past the census and our late start classes to see how that's going to affect it. And we will, as Dr. Brown indicated, come back with another report to the board on that, because we can tease out the ones that are fraudulent and give you a percentage on that. And then we'd have to just make assumptions that the other is from COVID or any other miscellaneous reasons. We are trying to do some exit polls on that to get that information. And with our researcher, Dr. Herrera, we're hoping that we will be able to get that, bundle it all together, and to give you an overall assessment based upon data, not just anecdotal information.
Thank you. I raise it also just in the context of this statewide challenge and whether the impact of these bots is big enough that it needs to be addressed legislatively in the budget with state chancellor's office, et cetera. Because, we recognize all these other issues, but if this is really rising to that level, maybe there's a way when we go to do budget formulation and budget advocacy in the coming year, one, we ask for some kind of help in terms of, backfilling staff, et cetera. It sounds like a horrible, tedious waste of time process, but it's also hurting our bottom line. And I think that's something that legislators need to understand, because it's not an obvious, it's nothing we can do anything about. And they perhaps could be educated in that realm once we understand this locally and statewide. Thank you.
That concludes our briefing. And if there are no more questions, I'll turn it back over to you, President Reese.
Thank you for that, Chancellor. Let us move on to public hearing 4.1. So I don't have a gavel, so we're going to have to pretend I have a gavel. Public hearing into the record, gavel in and gavel out. This being the time and date notice, the Board of Trustees will now convene a public hearing to receive public comment on the 2021-2022 budget. Have we received any requests to speak, or is there anyone present who wishes to comment regarding this topic? Hearing none. All right.
I'm sorry. Looks like, oh no, that was earlier. Okay. No, we're good.
Okay. All right. Shall we do roll call on this?
This is just for the public if they wish to comment on it. This isn't for, say, if student trustees have questions or comments yet, right?
And I'm just going to get clarification from legal in terms of the procedure for the public hearing.
This is the public hearing matter where you'll receive comments from the public, and then at the time later in the agenda where it's agendized for action, you would have board trustees discussion.
Okay, thank you. And just for further clarification, the roll call, that is a vote as to whether to support or not. So I understand that I can't motion for discussion, so I'm not quite sure how to insert my feedback here once we proceed to the next step.
Thank you, Trustee Cooper. I'm just looking at the agenda item. Vice Chancellor Ahmed, is this item going to be presented for approval after the public hearing, or this is bundled together with the public hearing?
This should be a budget that should be approved before the public hearing.
If this is the appropriate time to make a motion for approval of the budget, then I will make that motion. Council Sani, is this an appropriate motion at this point?
Just give me one.
Natasha, this is Rachel on from Dennis Walliver Kelly. We have it as two different items. We have it agendized for the public hearing. You can open and close that. And then we have it down further on the agenda for consideration of the final.
I think that's for the easement, correct, Rachel?
Yes.
Or are you speaking to the budget as well? We're on the budget item.
Oh, I'm speaking to the easement.
Yeah, I know that there were two items for the easement. I just am confirming if there are one item or two items for the budget.
Okay.
Just point of clarification, I thought that the motion that was on the floor, we opened public comment, and I thought that the motion was to close public comment and then to go to the presentation, which at the end would be a consideration to approve the budget, the adopted budget.
In advance of which I started asking some questions to clarify, because I'm trying to figure out if I have the ability to motion for discussion at some point in this and where to if I do.
Right, that's what we're trying to decide right now, student trustees.
Okay.
So thank you for your question.
Yeah, Chancellor Jackson, I'm sorry for the confusion. We don't need a motion for the public comment portion of the public hearing. The president would just gavel it in and gavel it out. A motion will only be needed for the discussion of the adoption of the budget itself.
Thank you.
Chief Roberts, do you know if this is a single agenda item or a double agenda item?
I do not. I'm looking right now.
All right, let's handle it as a single budget item until we can confirm. President Reese, just not to slow down the meeting. So I think the motion to consider discussion on the item would be very appropriate.
Okay, so we do have.
So don't we gavel out the hearing and then I make a motion for approval. If we get a second, then we can discuss. Correct?
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
So gavel out, and you have made a motion for.
And now I will make a motion to approve the budget, and we're looking for a second so we can discuss.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Jenkins. Okay, discussion. Or presenter, Dr. Jackson, are we having?
I thought that the order would be a presentation, and because if we discuss it, there may be items in the presentation that will be addressed.
Absolutely. Okay. So again, back to you, legal or Natasha, should we just go to the presentation and we'll do the discussion post the presentation?
Absolutely. You could just go right into the presentation.
Great. Thank you for that.
Trustee, I'm sorry. So, Interim Vice Chancellor Ahmed, would you like to begin?
Yes, thank you, Chancellor. Yes. President Reese, trustees, Chancellor, colleague, and member of the community. I'm presenting to you tonight the proposed adopted budget for fiscal year 2022. This budget reflects minor changes from the tentative budget that was approved by the Board of Trustees in June. The minor adjustment is related to the COLA that was increased from 405% to 507% for the revenue. The expenditure side reflects budgeted COLA increase for 5% for all staff, plus the health benefit increase of $1.2 million. The budget, this slide is the Budget Act include $765 million in ongoing policy adjustments, with the details on the following slide. Please, next slide. This is the details of the 765 million ongoing policy adjustment. Next slide, please, Maisha. The CARES Act. This is the CARES Act or HER fund by round. This slide provides an example of allowable costs under the CARES Act associated with student support and return to campus activities. Next slide, please. Next slide again. Here is the CARES Act. This CARES Act or HER funds is as of June 30th. Because when we're preparing the budget, we do this as of June 30th, and then we carry over any fund balance to be spent on the following fiscal year. As you can see in this slide, this slide displays the 3 rounds of the CARES Act for both institutionals and student aid portion, as well as the associated expiration date in red for each round. So if I take as an example, the district office got 637,000 as a total revenues. They spent it on salary and benefit, $94,000, and the total operating expenses, 278, and the remaining, the carryover, the total expenses, the total expenses 372,000. So the carryover budget for fiscal year 2022 is 264,000 that we carry over for this current fiscal year to be spent. If I take the next column, it's College of Alameda, round 1, round 2, round 3, total revenue received 9.6 million. Total expenditures as of June 30th, they spent $1.8 million. We carry over as of June 30th, $7.8 million to be spent on fiscal year 2022. Laney College, the same thing. So that we carry over 23.65 million to spend on this current fiscal year. And lastly, Merritt College, we carry over 10, because I can see it, over $11 million. So the total carryover is about 54.5 million. The college president will provide an update in October board meetings regarding their spending plan for this current fiscal year, regarding the encumbrance and the expenditures. Next slide, please. This is the 50% law. The 50% law stipulates that every dollar spent, 50 cents should be spent in the classroom. Next slide. This is the details calculation for the 50% law. You have all the details by object code, all the details excluding the exemptions. Next slide. This is still the details. Next slide. So we're spending the total education expenses is 121 million after we're excluding all those exemptions. Next slide. This slide provides the instructional salary and benefit, how much we spent in the classroom. We spent over $59 million. Next slide. Lastly, this is the additional exclusions. We take the total education expenses, which you saw on the previous slide, over 121 million. So we have to exclude the lottery funds, which was 2.6 million, and also the licenses and fees over 400,000. So the total expenditures is 118 million. Now we take the instruction. Now we take to calculate the 50% law. We take the instructional salary and benefit in the classroom, which was 59.2 million, divided by the 118 million, which we passed the 50% law by 50.04%. Next slide. I just wanted to add some information that I forget to tell you. The student wipeout, we did 2.8 million wipeout debt from the student using the HER fund, and that we did that beginning September. So we wipe out 2.8 million, which is not included and the CARES Act worksheet that I presented. This is the 5 years projections. We're gonna start with 21-22. Total revenue 148 million. This 148 million is practically the same as the tentative budget, except we get an increase on the COLA from 405% to 507%. That's the only increase. That's 148 million. Now your expenditures is a little bit different than the one we presented in the tentative budget, because this adopted budget includes a 5% salary increase COLA, plus an increase on health benefits of 1.2 million. So 148.7 million revenues, and the total expenses is 148.5. So our net increase decrease, which is a surplus, is over 200,000. So we're landing in ending fund balance, we're projecting of 23.9 million. So our fund balance will be 16.14%. So now if I jump in the column without hold harmless in 25-26, that's where we're gonna live with our mean. If everything remained the same, enrollment and cost remain the same, the loss of hold harmless and the stability protection adjustment will result in a fund balance less than 10%. As you can see, we're gonna land at 17.16% in 25-26. If there is no change, our expenses, our enrollment will continue to be the same. That's where we're landing, 7.16%. So I wanted to give you those information so the board can see where we're landing in 25-26 if there is no change on our enrollment and cost. Next slide. This slide is a presentation of the fund balance to show you where we started on the fund balance in 2020, 2021, and moving to 2025 and 2026. If the hold harmless is not extended anymore, and we have to live with our mean, that way we're landing 17.16%. If there is no change, we stay static, that way we're landing. Next slide. This is 7 years FTS, 320 attendance report. As you can see, we started in 2014 and 2015 with over 19,000 FTS. In 2020, 2021, we landed in 13,000 FTS. That is roughly 6,000 FTS, which if I do an estimation calculation, will be about 16 times 5,000 will be what? About 80 million loss in revenue. So we're lucky that we use the hold harmless at this time. And I want to just say that we were declining prior to the pandemic, and the pandemic make it worse. Next slide. Any question?
Trustees, do we have questions? It looks like there are no questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Vice President Gonzalez-Yuen.
Good. I'm just trying to check my memory and my understanding with the information that we got here. So tonight we're also ratifying various negotiated contract items, and I'm trying to just check my memory on this. When we were negotiating, and I'm trying to do so carefully, so because I don't want to get into negotiations on the dais or anything like that. Okay, so, but as we were in negotiations, and then the board was being given information about what the impact would be from negotiations and the proposed contract settlements on the ending balance. I'm trying to remember whether, so like on tonight's presentation here, the ending balance is after the hold harmless goes away, we're going to get 7%. Now, is that consistent with what we've been told for the last number of months in regard to ending balance projections, especially in the context of COLA pass-throughs, et cetera, or did something shift there? I'm just trying to just get the history right on this item as we move forward with this budget.
I'm not sure if I understand your question, Trustee Ewing. We have provided the 5-year projections based upon the hold harmless and also without the hold harmless. And so that has not changed. The item that will also be going away will be the CARES funds. And we are also looking at what our hires are, because those had not been approved. We hadn't moved forward. So back in June, we've approved several new employees, both faculty and staff, and we gave you those recommendations and indicated that those would hit our budget line. So we have been consistent in providing that, but as we indicate, it's always a snapshot in time, not a long-term projection. And the board has always asked for us to look at 5 years, a 5-year projection. We just got notified after the May revise and the approved budget by the state that the cost of living was going up from the 4.7, 4.07 or whatever it was. I know it was 4%, went up to 5.07. We negotiated pass through of 5%. But with those, we also had to include those benefits. So all of that together, I think, is why you're seeing the difference. Given, and this is just my own prediction, given that all community colleges in the state are being affected by the fraudulent enrollments and keeping out maybe students that actually did want to take courses, I believe that the state is going to take some kind of stance on the fiscal side of the house, given that all community college districts are suffering because of this. I'm not sure what that's going to be, if that's going to be one-time fund, if that's going to be ongoing funds, but we are not alone in that. And I do think that that's going to be affected, but we would be remiss if we didn't give you the projections, assuming that everything remains the same. And again, we're not going to remain the same. We have a lot of things that we're doing to increase our enrollment with outreach. You heard about some of the grants, but we have to give you kind of what we see right now as the worst case, versus saying that everything is going to get better. We have to go with where we are now and then factor that across the 5-year period, assuming that nothing changes, to give you that outlook.
Okay, so that's super helpful. Yes, of course, we want that honesty of budgeting. And, this budget you arrived at through a long process of consultation and figuring it out. I don't think we're going to change this budget tonight, but I think it's probably necessary now then, as we move forward, to figure out how do we land above our 10% board policy and begin figuring that out over the next 4 years so that we get that in order. And I think everybody believes that. So thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
The other thing that I would also add, Nikki, is that I think prior to just recently, we were only looking at budgets with the hold harmless until 23-24, right? And so as both Vice Chancellor Ahmed and Dr. Jackson had said, it was extended for a year. And so that changes our reserve because we have years that we haven't looked at in prior charts and the tentative budget. Trustee Withrow and Trustee Bonilla.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment that I found this budget to be the most professional document that I've seen in 17 years here in the Peralta system. This is, in my mind, going to come across as a very positive move at the ACCJC and the State Chancellor's office. It's very professional in terms of not only putting out a bunch of numbers and whatever, but the flow of the numbers are just very good. I'm very impressed, and I think that our two oversight bodies are going to agree with that.
And then Trustee Bonilla.
Yes, thank you. I agree. Thank you for for presenting this budget with these minor updates. And I think I want to just go back to better understand Trustee Gonzalez-Ewan's question, which is, how does this budget compare? We know that there were minor adjustments. We know that the COLA and the hold harmless have a definite impact on the budget that lowers our fund balance. But it's always helpful for me to understand, how does this compare to the previous budget? You know, are there significant differences? And if there were minor differences from that budget, I'm not sure what those minor differences are. And maybe it's just me, because I need to be walked through what those differences are. And so, Chancellor, I think just as an understanding from a layperson's perspective, and hopefully speaking on behalf of a broader public community, if we could understand what some of those differences are from the budget that we adopted to this budget, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. I think that Vice Chancellor Ahmed, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe when you started out at the beginning of the presentation, you indicated that the only major change was in the cost of living from the adopted budget. And so I think that was explained. But what I think I'm hearing you say, Trustee Bonilla, is look not only with where we are right now projecting out, but look, maybe provide a slide in the future looking at what our past budgets were to show some comparison. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's absolutely correct. Yes, that would be
Okay.
helpful moving forward, of course.
Okay, all right. I duly noted. We will do that.
Student Trustee Cooper.
Hello. So I have my comment and recommendation here. I'll try and speed through this as quick as I can. First of all, I'm deeply concerned and do not agree with the previous comments, as it seems the second largest adjustment is in direct violation of the FCMAT report's guidance, which notes our excess staffing and ongoing hiring of faculty as our single biggest expense and the biggest cause of our financial unsustainability, creating our immense risk of insolvency. This strikes me as willfully charging in the polar opposite direction that the state has not only advised us on, but reportedly warned us will cause state intervention, among other issues. This does not feel as though it upholds the public's trust. As such, I must oppose this budget until it has been improved or time has been made to more thoroughly review how this could possibly make sense. For my recommendation, due to the district's failure to include students in the development of this budget, reply to us about this work, or effectively train us on how to engage this work, such as how to navigate the board docs page to find all the background information we need, I must cast my advisory vote and recommendation of tabling this item until the following meeting, in addition to which I would ask the board to take it upon themselves to thoroughly walk through the budget with all student representatives who are interested in participating to help us gain a clear understanding of what you would have us approve of. In addition, I know that many of our ASGs have expressed interest in budget reviewing and greater student oversight in these matters. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Let us move to, that's it. Okay, let's do roll call, please.
Student Trustee Hogan,
Yes.
Student Trustee Cooper,
No.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
Trustee Handy,
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
Trustee Napoleon Bellarice.
Yes,
Motion passes.
and thank you for all the work on this particular budget.
Thank you, board.
All right, let us move on to 4.2, which is also our public hearing and record. Again, gavel in, this being the time and date notice, the Board of Trustees will now convene a public hearing to receive public comment on the conveyance of an easement to East Bay Municipal Utility District for public utilities and a right-of-way. Have we received any requests to speak, or is there anyone present in the public who wishes to comment regarding this topic?
I don't see anybody raising their hands.
Okay, gavel out. And let us move on to 5.1. Our presentation, update on the ACCJC follow-up report due October 1st and the teach-out plans.
Thank you very much, President Reese. I'd like to welcome, I was going to say to the podium, but really to our forum, our Zoom forum, Dr. Janet Falk. She has been working with us since, gosh, it seems like a long time, but it really hasn't been, just earlier last month. And during that time, she has really been working with the ALOs, as well as with our ALO at the district, which is Vice Chancellor Brown, as well as the presidents, as well as the other executive leaders on the campus, from the administrative, I was going to say vice presidents of administrative services, VPASs, as well as the VPIs, the vice presidents of instruction, our CTO, our technology individuals. So really have done a yeoman's work, excuse my dogs, done a yeoman's work in doing that. So I would like for her to do a presentation, also cover the teach out plans, which is something new. We are one of the first districts to have to do that. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Janet. Thank you very much for being patient with us tonight.
Well, I feel like I'm a part of Peralta, so I'm not being patient. I'm just soaking in the Peralta vibe here. Maisha, if you could please put the PowerPoint up. As you all know, you received an accreditation visit in March, a comprehensive visit, and that visit required a follow-up report with, if you go ahead to the next slide, please, where you had 4 colleges. 2 of them got some improvement recommendations, which are recommendations that you're expected to address, but you aren't required to address them. And then the district received 10 district requirements. So notice that the word is not recommendation, but requirement. So it means non-compliance with the accreditation standards. You were also requested to report on 8 fiscal issues that you've been reporting on for the last 18 months that also related to some of the FICMAT fiscal issues that came up. And then there were 2 improvement recommendations for the district, which you don't have to write up in the follow-up report, but you should address later. So I'm going to just kind of walk you through the way that these look because they're very important to you. They're important to the, actually to the whole state, I think, when I think about how Peralta represents the kind of students we have in California. So next slide, please, Mike. So very quickly, in summary, if you were to look at the major reporting and requirements that you have. The district was required to analyze its issues, especially with controls, and to stabilize finances and financial aid in order to ensure credibility and to clear all of your audit findings. The district was also told that they needed to clearly delineate functions between the colleges in the district. And this is, something that you've got to do in every multi-college district. And then a big part of the reporting and the non-compliance came under the auspices of the district and the board. And here, this is where you all want to be engaged and interested. You were required to evaluate and delineate authority to the chancellor, to act in one accord, one decision, one voice, to act as an independent body, free of external influences, political type influences or others, review your own policies and follow them, and then assure academic quality and financial stability. So if we go to the next slide, Chancellor Jackson and I are very visual people. So in visualizing this, if you see the big square on the outside, sort of overarching everything, our requirement number 10 to clearly delineate the functions and the work that need to be done on the colleges and at the district. And then number 8, which has to do with the board assessing your policies and following them. Underneath that big umbrella, the district needs to get in control of its financial internal controls and financial management, making credible financial documents. So Trustee Withrow, it was nice to hear your compliment to Vice Chancellor Ahmed tonight about the reporting on that. And then number 2, to respond to all the external findings. Number 3, to practice effective oversight. And I just want the board to know, I come in as a novice to Peralta, but I have been very involved in accreditation in the state, in all of the ACC-JC area. And you all have been working really hard in these areas. So I'm going to be excited to share a little bit with you as we go through the report. But in the core, at the very core of these requirements are the requirements directed at the Board of Trustees, assuring academic quality, requirement 4, requirement 5, reaching a unified decision, requirement 6, clearly defining a policy to evaluate the chancellor, requirement 7, acting as an independent policy-making body, and number 9, delegating full responsibility and authority to the chancellor. So next slide. So I'm not going to go through every individual requirement, but let me give you an update on requirement 1, which pertains primarily to finance. You all know, because you've received presentations on a bajillion reports, right? You've had FCMAT, Collaborative Brain Trust, Cambridge West, ACC-JC. You've made your integrated planning document. You've seen so many reports. And I want to say that the quality of these reports, they were really excellent. And they have a good roadmap for you to move forward. You've had many consultants, and consultants are great when you've got problems and you need solutions. And so PeopleSoft came in and provided some solutions. You've got EdgeRock in there right now, and I don't know if you've approved their contracts a couple of times. They're like little miners in there working on day-to-day activities and doing really good work. And then you have CBT, Collaborative Brain Trust, which gave you an actual task list of things that you need to be able to clear up some of these internal control issues. You've had extensive analysis with your software updates. You are in the process. You probably don't know this. I don't know how much you get to hear about what's going on, but there has been so much recoding and testing and evaluation. And while there's been a lot of improvement, it's still in progress. So when I talk to people, they say, yes, it's improved, but we still have this problem. And so it's that process of getting through all of those issues, but you're there and you have really a tidal wave of work pushing improvement forward. And then financial controls have been implemented technically through PeopleSoft with IT things. And there are other details I can tell you if you're interested in them later, but you have updated so many of your business rules through your new IT update that actually do the work of embedding controls in your business processes, that they've been very helpful. Then what I want you to know as it comes down to the end with all the good hard work that you've had and your own committee that's looking at budget and finance and the BAM, the budget allocation model, you all have a really much more stable financial picture. The SCIF is embedded in your budgeting. The tentative budget looks good. Your reserves are at a high level, and that 5-year report lets you know that you still, if you want to keep it at your board policy 10%, you need to do a little work there. But you've got all the details and you're able to move forward. And I went back and looked at 5 years of your CFS 311s, which is your unrestricted fund. It's kind of like your IRS report. And boy, when you look at those, you know, you are going from negative balances in many, many columns down to hardly any, and being able to explain and move forward with really strong balances and reserves. I found in my experience real strength beginning to build in everything that I saw. So it's very much improved in the financial area in requirement 1, but it still needs some work. And I just want you to know, that COVID has and hasn't helped. There are things that COVID is improving in some of the financial areas and giving you an opportunity to do. And then with the FTES, it's a challenge to lose FTES like everyone is. But I have to say, looking at your financial area, a lot of the issues that are going to happen are going to have to involve training and enough staff to carry out these internal controls where you can check and recheck what you're doing. So next slide, please. This is on the audit findings, and you all got the audit report last spring, just before school went out. And you got another 10 audit findings, some of which were repeats. So how are you doing in that area? What do they mean? And I'm not sure. I'm just going to bounce this to Chancellor Jackson very quickly. Do you think I need to go through the definition, or do the board and the people attending pretty much know the difference between those layers of audit findings?
I think you probably should, because we do have some new people, and I'd rather be proactive than have them asking questions.
All right. I don't want to put you to sleep. Lots of times when you hear audit, it seems like a sleepy thing, but you had findings that were in 3 categories. The lowest category at the bottom of the pyramid is a simple deficiency, where as the auditors looked at your work and your business plan and they did some testing, you had something that could cause a problem because there's a little lapse in controlling that process and rechecking to be sure it's accurate. So one of your findings, 2020-003, was a deficiency. The middle of the pyramid are significant deficiencies. This is a deficiency, or usually multiple deficiencies along a pathway in the internal controls that merit attention, because they're probably going to cause problems, and those problems may rise to the highest level, which is a material weakness. So in the material weakness area at the top of that pyramid, you had 3 findings. And what that means is you are out of compliance with some sort of requirement that you've got. And most of these were related to financial aid. So that means that the auditors must automatically inform the federal government that you're out of compliance here and that you've got issues that have to do with federal funding. So you've got these levels, and you've got a fair number that are in the middle or at the very top of this pyramid. So they're pretty serious. And what we found looking at them is, honestly, in the history of your district, you had analysts that were working in different areas, and people would call and ask for something to be done, and they would just code a little tiny bridge that would sort of go around and give a report, or go around and move some funds, or do little things that were outside of your PeopleSoft system. Those little things don't carry over, and so and they're not easy to track, and they are not considered controlled. They're exterior, they're Band-Aids. So when you went up to your PeopleSoft 9.2, all of those Band-Aids fell off. So all of the good stuff that PeopleSoft can do is going to be different, and it's going to be better. But some of the processes that people expect around the district and on the campuses, particularly in financial aid, they do not exist anymore, because those little coding bridges are gone, and they should be gone. Now, it's not unusual that districts do this or colleges do this, but it's not good practice, and it doesn't lead to having a controlled environment. So we're at the stage now where you all have responded to all of the findings by saying what is wrong, completely responding and saying you know what needs to be fixed, but not all of it is fixed, because you're going to have to do a little bit of coding and creation to get PeopleSoft up to doing the reporting and the things that you need. Plus, you're going to have to train everybody in different ways to do it, because they were all used to these little Band-Aid processes that were there. So you're going to be able to clear these audits, I have no doubt, by June of 2022. But it's going to take time to get them cleared in a way that you embed those controls that are both IT controls, but also human controls to check and recheck the work you're doing. Next slide, please. The next requirement is on number 3, financial aid. And many of the audit findings were actually your financial aid requirement, embedded in the financial aid requirement. So the solutions that are being worked on right now is, boy, I'll tell you what, those financial aid leaders throughout your district, they are meeting every week. I've sat in on a couple meetings. They're tense because they're wanting to, serve the students and get the money and do everything that's needed to be done. But they are working so hard, and they have mapped out and identified problems. And even as they solve problems, they figure out something else that needs some work, but they are hot on that problem. And so they're meeting, their consultants are helping them every day by making work lists and correcting things. And I know that you've got new human controls in place, because you have directors of financial aid now that'll be on every single college. And that provides the accountability and the control, human control, over some of the really important functions that happen there on the campus closest to the students. So you've made a lot of headway, especially on policy and procedures. And I noticed, board, that you had gone through and updated and approved the financial aid policies. So that was really good work, and it's a great beginning to meet these requirements that you've got to meet. So next slide, Mike. So requirements 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9 are really directed at the board. And at your overall task of ensuring academic quality, integrity, and effectiveness. And I'm happy to say that you've actually met several of these so far, because it was tough when you've had 3 chancellors in just a little over a year, but you have already created goals and evaluated this chancellor. So you have solved that one requirement. That one is completely met. I wasn't reading the report how to prove that you are completely unified. You look totally unified now. Your board goals, your retreats are awesome. I've been looking at all of your voting habits, at the way that you communicate. I have to say that you, to me, appear to be reaching a decision as a unified board. I have a feeling the ACCJC is going to want to see that over a long period of time, but I've tried to give them a lot of evidence, some of which was the fact that you were one of the first districts that required vaccination. And that is a tough political situation to be in, but you were very unified on that, and it shows. As far as adhering to the policy to evaluate the chancellor, I said that you had completed that. On being an independent policymaking body, I shared data on your hires and other things that to me look as though you are behaving independently. You will see that the chancellor has been putting forward a lot of board policies that need to be reviewed and updated. In fact, you hadn't updated on a regular basis, even though it was a board policy, you had not regularly reviewed your board policies. You were getting some help from the CCLC in their updates in the 2 semesters, but you have a lot of policies that are over a decade old. And reviewing policies are a good way to just train new board members. So your BPAP task force, which Trustee Delphin Polk was on, created a matrix so that you know what board policies are up to be reviewed, and created some things that we'll talk about later, so that I have said that you have met this requirement, and going forward, you will be completely compliant with that standard. And then you have delegated full responsibility and authority to the chancellor. There was a notation about a couple of board policies that I think you're going to be looking at in this month of September that clear up a little bit of conflict, and then you will have totally met that requirement as well. So next slide. This is the requirement 8 about regularly reviewing your board policy. And so what you see here is just a spreadsheet where we analyze all of your board policy to see when it was last reviewed, whether it was legally required or advised, or whether it was good practice or required by the accreditors. And then we prioritize what ones need to come to you sooner rather than later. You had over 122 that were way beyond the time that they should have been reviewed. I know that in your board goals, you said that they should be reviewed every 5 years, but upon analysis, we feel that every 5 years is going to be a little bit hard until you catch up. So we're suggesting that every 7 years, you should review these board policies, and the tabs on this little spreadsheet, which is posted under your webpage at the college, shows which ones should come up first. So they are prioritized. There are over 120 that haven't been reviewed in over 7 years. And you will be seeing them come through with all of the great, historical reasoning about why you need to look at those. And then if you go to the next slide, in the process, we found out that the AP for actually reviewing board policy was way outdated. It referenced things that don't exist anymore. So the BPAP task force rewrote a new AP 2410. This is a visual of the way that policy will come through anybody in the district, whether it's on the left-hand side at the bottom, any PCCD group, that means any faculty, classified student, anybody that's got expertise in an area can propose a policy or procedure change to the appropriate VC with area experience. Down in the middle blue box, it might come through CCLC as a biannual systemic update, which is really important with the way that laws change these days. You just need somebody looking out and suggesting templates so that you're within the legal ramifications. And then the last is the brand new one. Every 7 years, we're going to have a cycle of board policies coming through. And I believe that you might have been looking at some board policies, but not putting a date on it. So maybe you looked at it and it was reviewed, but you didn't even have a way to say we looked at it in 2010 or 2020 if you didn't change it. So we have a new stamp that you can put on it that says reviewed without change. Then you'll review, and I know you're going to want to update many of them because some of them just are old, way back in a decade ago. Those will go into the chancellor designee. they'll go up to Chancellor's cabinet. This is the brown layer, out to participatory governance. If it's an AP, after all those people talk, it will go through the Chancellor's approval. If it's a board policy, it will go up to the board for approval, usually 2 readings unless there's some sort of an emergency. So this is the new flow chart that describes what AP 2410 will look like. And then the next slide, please. One of the requirements you had was kind of a funny little glitch. One college had a functional map that was different from the other 3 colleges. And we did an analysis and found out that they had simply pulled up the wrong map that related to the old standards, and they fixed that. But in talking to the ACCJC, and we agreed with them, this kind of mapping that goes by the standards. So right here, you're looking at standard 1 mission and the substandard 1A1, who's primary and who's secondary on it. That isn't really helpful in a multi-college district when you're trying to figure out who's in charge of childcare and do I go to the district or do I go to the college to solve a problem? So if you go to the next slide, and I think this is the most important thing that you board members are going to be looking at. I know it's small and I can send you all where we're at, but oh man, your people on the colleges and at the district have been going through every single function that the district and colleges share and stating specifically what it is that the district does and what it is that the college does so that you've got accountability and we're naming that person that's accountable. And this is actually going to respond in a very deep and meaningful way to the requirement about internal controls. Because if you don't know who's responsible or you don't know what the function is, then how do you hold people accountable? So we've been working through this. It will not be done until December. You're going to see it come through for your approval in November. But we've been having the most rich conversations, and everybody from the little analysts in IR to the presidents of the colleges have said, you know, this is what we've needed to do for a really long time. And it's rich because the district doesn't always know everything the college does, and the college doesn't always know everything the district does. And so a lot of the issues that you've had that were brought up in your accreditation visit really had to do with either stepping on toes or having a gap where nobody was really checking and doing the follow through on different things. So look to see this coming. It's an awesome thing that everybody's working very hard on. And it's not by the accreditation standards, it's actually by the function of the college and the district. Next slide, please. So these are all the people that worked on this, and it was primarily the expanded Chancellor's cabinet. Next slide. And there were a lot of other little subgroups, but I don't think they're meaningful right now. What you should know is that you got the report at the end of June, kind of figured out what to do in July, and all we really had was August through like tonight to get this whole report to you to do all of the analysis. And right now we're on a parallel path where the colleges are getting edits back to us and comments, and you need to give us your comments within the next week or so to the report that we've got. Basically, the report will be the middle of the report is a single report because it's about the district. So every college, which is the only thing that is accredited, the district's not accredited, will have a similar center portion. And then when we talk about the fiscal issues, little differences for each of the colleges. And then as far as the functional map goes, that kind of twisty chain there is showing you an iterative pathway so that we can look at the functional map and really agree to who's doing what, where, and when, and look at it again and again until we can all agree. And so far, I haven't really seen people disagreeing. Mostly, I've seen people being amazed at all the work that gets done, and also identifying gaps where you don't have someone that actually is in charge of that function. So next slide, please. This is the very rapid timeline that we've got. And you can see you're down there on September the 14th. This is your first review. All 4 first drafts are posted on the accreditation website. We just finished the second draft, which is edited and had a lot of amazing and great input from all of your people on the colleges. And then we'll get that right back up and on your agenda so you can see the finalized report within the next week. And then you'll need to sign it off on September 28th, and we need to mail it off on October 1st. So this is, and I see Mark just put the website there for you to go and grab that report and look at it. And it's about you, so I a good portion of it. So I would encourage you to look at it. And as I did with the campus, there were about 115 of us at the greatest moment when we were sharing this as a fireside chat. I had my expand this picture of your students. So I'm just going to take a 1-minute point of privilege here. This district, I have worked with so many schools and so many districts. This district is the most diverse district I've ever seen. When I sit there with IR or IT, and I look at all of the people that I'm working with, when I'm on Chancellor's expanded cabinet, when I'm working with the financial aid directors, you are an unbelievably diverse institution. And if you all can't make this work, if you all can't get together and agree enough to keep the institution going, and it just takes one requirement for you to lose your accreditation, and you've got 10 and fiscal issues. And I believe you are going to make it work. You've got to be able to have that communication, collaboration, partnership, setting aside your own little hacks that you think you want done, because for the future of the students, this diverse district needs to make it. I mean, there are so many of us just praying that you will be a model of how diversity and inclusion really, really can work. So I want to close by just saying that I think you've made huge progress getting there. And I think the report is going to at least keep you on probation so you don't fall to show cause. We're hoping, just stay on probation, and then gradually, as everything does get cleared over this next year, move you off of that. But please realize how important you are. Every one of you, every president, every board member, every person that's here tonight is so important to our state and actually to the world to prove that as diverse as you are, you can work together and you can make this work for students. So that's the end of the information that I wanted to share with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but I also realize it might be past some people's bedtimes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Folks. President Napoli Abella Reese is still in transition and asked me to just take over facilitating. So board colleagues, questions. I see Trustee Withrow.
I just have a quick question, and thank you, Jenna, for the tremendous rundown on this. I'd like to get back to number 7, function as an independent policy-making body that reflects the public. Do you really feel that this board does that?
So I feel that there is a lot of good progress that's been made. When I look back at some of your board policies, I think there are issues that you all are going to need to address that bind you to not being independent. But that's, discussions that you'll need to have going forward. I think that the kind of decisions that you've made and the votes that I've seen, and my work was mainly to look from January until September, because you had already written your ICERs, your institutional self-evaluation reports. I just see that there's an evolution in the board. So I think honestly, there's room for you to grow there, but I feel like you're moving in the right direction. And that's just from an outsider's point of view. I'm not sitting in there with you all the time, but that was the way that I saw it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. Are there other trustees who have questions or would like to make comments? I'm scanning back and forth. I'm not able to move people on my page right now, so I'm jumping between pages to make sure I'm catching hands. So if I'm missing you, okay. I don't think I'm seeing. Okay. Trustee Benia, why don't we go to you? And then I see President Napoli Abella Reese with a hand up. So Trustee Benia, why don't we go to you?
Yes, thank you. So I just want to thank, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce your last name right, Janet Folks. And I want to thank you for such a comprehensive overview. And I also want to thank the administration, the college, each of the college presidents and their teams for doing such an amazing job on addressing some of the issues, all of the issues actually, that arose from ACCJC and the accreditation process. I know it's been a grueling process, but it's been one that I can actually, like you, see the transformation, see what's happening, see the hard work and the dedication by all involved who are striving to make improvements. And it shows in your presentation, and that's exciting to see that we actually get to see it in practice, and we actually get to visualize it now through your presentation. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Trustee Benia. President Napoli Abella Reese.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Dr. Folks, you are amazing. You really are. And just the work that you've done with everybody in the district has really been great. I actually watched your August 30 ACCJC presentation. And I also the visuals, the slides, the PowerPoint, the incredible work that you've been doing, the ACCJC page with all of the evidence on there. It is so orderly, so thorough, so just really made me want to weep, because this district, with the Chancellor at the helm and you as your partner and all of the presidents and everybody around, there has been so much work that has been done. And it is just really amazing. It really, really is. So I just want to thank you for so many different reasons. But I agree. I think that, finally, after many, many years, this, as a result of all of the collaborative work, and again, with the Chancellor at the helm and you helping her, also just this district and these colleges are finally going to do for our communities what needed to be done. And so it's authentic, genuine work, internal work that needed to be done. And I think that everybody, including the external agencies, are going to be thrilled at the outcomes once we get to that particular point. And we know that the board has a lot of work to do, and we're doing it, but we know that we have a lot of work to do. And my one question is, and I may have missed this because I was in transition, but I know that the report, the draft reports are supposed to be we're supposed to be doing the first read on them at this particular meeting. And so I know you had mentioned the feedback and input, but since we don't have the draft reports at this meeting, if I'm not mistaken, when are we going to be able to see that so that we could input and feedback so that we can approve them at the next meeting?
So I think Mark put in the chat a link. They are already posted under the accreditation page on the website, and they have been there for a while. They aren't beautiful. They have a lot of little errors that are in them. If you want to just jump ahead to what includes all of the input that we've gotten so far from the colleges, Berkeley City College's report will be up tomorrow, and it will represent the culmination of everything. And then we've got to, make it into 4 separate individual reports. But the the reports have actually been in their really rough draft form posted up there on the website, and they are available to you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that.
And thank you for your kind comments.
Thank you.
Cindy, are you taking back over? Do you want me to continue because you're still in transition? Okay, I'm going to assume I'm just continuing. Are there other comments from board members or questions? I'm just going to call on myself then, just really briefly. Dr. Folks, thank you so much. The presentation was not only comprehensive, it was also comprehensible. You know, a lot of times there's sort of this mystery about accreditation and what the standards are and where people are falling down and so forth. And your explanations were very clear. And so you and staff are to be commended for bringing to life and to light something that can be obscure and complicated. So first of all, I want to thank you. And obviously, you know, this is a massive effort, you know, to sustain good educational institutions and then to demonstrate it is this another thing. And so I think the entire staff and administration and faculty can be really commended. There's one area that I'm just curious about, and I don't quite understand it. And it has to do with the item 5. Once the Board of Trustees reaches a decision, all board members support it. And I mean, in some ways that seems like, yeah, okay, that's obvious. How do you have that discussion? But in some other ways, you can see like this board is working really hard to maintain collegiality, to try to be inclusive, to really respect divergent points of view. But we are a publicly elected board. We are accountable to a public. We're not accountable to anyone else. We're not accountable to each other. We can try to censure each other if we think we're out of line, or we can try to talk and, you know, move people. But at the end of the day, a board member is independent, and we're a political body. We sometimes represent very divergent political values. So as long as a board member isn't trying to boss an administrator around, which we would interrupt, if a board member is vocalizing dissent, is that a violation of ACCJC standards? What does it mean to support a decision made by the board in a diverse body where we're not accountable to each other in that way? We're accountable to the voters every 4 years. Can you help the board understand how we navigate that contradiction of accountability and lines of authority?
So, I mean, I think especially in such a diverse community that like you all come from, you're voted in that way because you do represent diverse communities. So you may have divergent thinking on it. The standard actually says the governing board acts as a collective entity. Once the board reaches a decision, all board members act in support of that decision. So I think there is space for you to have different opinions, to talk about it. Oh my goodness, I've learned so many things working with Peralta and things that I never would have considered because my own cultural background is narrow. And when I'm listening and participating, I learn so many things. So I don't think it's not that you can't have different opinions. It's the way that you communicate those different opinions, the discussions that you use to get to a conclusion where the high goal that you are reaching is to have integrity in your academic quality and to have integrity in your financial stability and to have credible decisions that you know are student-centered. So in that particular requirement, on the evidence of unity, I talked about the discussions that you all had at your retreats, and even that one discussion section where you talked about where you disagreed and how you disagreed. And I don't think the accreditors expect you to not disagree. I think they expect you to, in a very civil way, like your communication protocols call for, speak about those differences and find that many minds have a much better decision than any one outside opinion, even if it represents your area. It might represent your area better when you've included the thoughts of other people that are divergent. And I also talked about your board effectiveness goal, which is goal 6. And when you go and look at your board goals, I worked with Helen Benjamin and Sasha and Siri to update what you've done to meet those goals. If you haven't seen that, it's on your page. You ought to go look at that. You guys have worked hard and it shows. And I can see where things that could very possibly come in with very divergent opinions, in the end, you all have risen to make a decision that is the best for the institution as a whole, not just for the group you represent, but the institution as a whole. And I also saw in your board evaluations that while you're not, maybe where the Accreditation Association would like you to be ideally, you are all moving towards at least talking through and understanding those things. And so in the end, I just really felt like those things are evidence of you being diverse, having divergent opinions, but talking about them civilly and then raising to a decision that really is for the benefit of the institution as a whole.
Thank you very much. Student Trustee Cooper, you see your hand up. You were recognized.
Hello. Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to note on this individual example, I was very happy with the report and how this was presented compared to some of the other examples of where I've seen the same information presented. I've prepared my response here, stating that I'm gravely concerned about a lack of invitation, encouragement, involvement, encouragement, invitation. I'm gravely concerned about a lack of involvement, invitation, and encouragement of student involvement in our accreditation processes and ISER reports. This hardly seems like adequate support for students' 9+1 rights or proper oversights in these monumental issues and opportunities for student leaders to learn and make a major difference. I have attended 2 presentations to student governments this week on this matter with the same slides, both of which felt as though they did not provide full context, neither encouraged student involvement through anything but a signature of approval. Both seemed to imply the signature was all but expected regardless of the student's approval of the content they'd be legally endorsing, which was not emphasized. Both presenters pointed the finger at the district, implying that the colleges don't bear a responsibility in these matters. And both continued, though much more subtly, the implication that we are somehow the victims of some wrongful scrutiny or at risk of wrongful quote unquote takeover, both of which have been, we've been condemned by the state oversights like the Board of Governors for spreading. And I personally consider it nothing short of propaganda. I feel that everyone involved in these matters needs to double down and make certain that student voices are being adequately included and are not being coached or influenced in their honest and organic review of these matters. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that input, student trustee. I'm going to now hand this back over to President Napoli Abella Reese, who has landed and is in front of a table and a computer again. So
Yes.
Back to you.
My apologies. I do not see any more. Can you all hear me okay? I do not see any more comments from any of our trustees. Thank you for all the comments that came through. And I believe we are good. We are good. Thank you, Dr. Folks. Truly, thank you. Let's move on to the next agenda item. And I will give this right back to Dr. Jackson. We are at 6.1. Consider review of the quarterly swap portfolio summary report relating to the district's OPEB bonds.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm having a little connectivity issues myself, so hopefully I'm not breaking up. But this is really just an informational item. We are required to provide this information, and I believe that the agenda item, the background analysis, really covers it. That this is in accordance with our board policy, as well as a report that we received in terms of our swap. And I'm sorry, I can't see the agenda. My computer is locked up, and I think I'm dropping you now, so I apologize. Can anyone hear me?
We can hear you. You're good. You're good.
Okay. All right. I was just going to say that this is really our quarterly swap portfolio summary that we're required to provide of our OPED. And this just gives you a snapshot of where we are. And it's just a pro forma report that we have to provide. Nothing outstanding different than what was before. Interest rates for our swap are a little bit lower than they used to be. They used to be a lot higher. So this just gives you that snapshot. I'm not a subject matter expert on it, but it is information. If the board has some questions, I would be happy to address those, but maybe not at this particular meeting.
I do not see any questions. I think we are good. Let's move on to 6.2.
This again, I was just going to say this again is an update of the district strategic plan that was, we had PPL under former Chancellor Walter come in, look at our strategic plan. They made some recommendations. It still is in progress. It has not been completed. And we've had discussions with the expanded cabinet as well as with the cabinet, the executive leadership. And the recommendation is that we are going to go out for an RFP, not only for to finish the district strategic plan, but also to assist with the college's educational master plans. One of the things that we need to do is to do an environmental scan. So that will be part of that process. And we hope to have that completed in the RFP out on the street within the next 10 days. And then we have to give the vendors time to respond and make a decision before the end of this semester. In the meantime, the colleges are moving forward. Also, our internal researchers are gathering data and information, and that will be coming back to the board for approval. Once we review that, look at the vendors that apply, and then make a recommendation to retain them to assist in these efforts.
Great. Thank you for that, Chancellor Jackson. Now we are on the consent calendar. Can I have a motion for the consent calendar?
Just on the last item, President
Yeah,
Reese?
sorry. Yes.
Just real briefly, one of the things that we have talked about as a board is the district mission statement. And there's been some complication about when and where does the board provide input. But, and so I just want to remind us that we need to figure that out. I think we've reaffirmed the mission statement as it is, but what that meant was that we put a pause on the mission statement that had been developed. And if I'm not mistaken. And so I just want to remind us that at some point, the board needs to have some process where we talk about mission statement and then provide our input into that process so that the shared governance processes that did that actually then hear from the board, and it's an iterative, reiterative process. And I don't want us to be remiss in that, so that when it comes back to us again, the circle will be complete. So consider that a reminder.
And let me speak to that a bit, Trustee Ewing. I looked at the recommendation. I had worked with Dr. Benjamin. We thought we were going to be able to present that during the retreat. Unfortunately, we just ran out of time. I have already collected some information to provide to the board in terms of what our mission and value statements are compared to other colleges and districts, compared to what was recommended by our shared governance bodies. And I can send that out so that we can start that discussion and dialogue. Because you're absolutely right, that needs to be completed and that needs to be put to rest so that we can include that as part of our strategic plan, because that's where we kind of start. In addition to the board goals, that's the other thing that we have already done, but we do need to do our relook at it, reaffirm it, modify it, keep it the same. But that's something that we do need to go through as a process. So we hope to get that calendar and to have that done also before the end of this year. So I will be sending out some information on that for discussion at a future meeting.
Thank you. And with that, I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. Okay, let's do roll call.
Student Trustee Hogan,
Yes.
Student Trustee Cooper,
Yes.
Student Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins, Trustee Jenkins, are you there? I'll come back. Sorry, was that a yes?
Yes.
Trustee Handy,
Yes.
Trustee Dilpin Poke,
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
Trustee Napolia Vallariz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We are at the action item portion of the agenda. Let's go to 12.1. Consider approval of an extension and amendment agreement for $115,000 between the district and Alliant Insurance Services, which extends the consulting services agreement previously entered into. Can I have a motion for this?
Madam
Thank you.
President,
Yes.
I'd like to ask whether any trustee has a particular agenda action item that they want to discuss. And if not, what I'd like to do is just move the entire action calendar and then pull out anything that trustees want to discuss or have presentations on.
If that's a motion, I'll second.
Okay, so that's 13 items in the action calendar that I've moved.
Trustee Withrow?
I think we have a second from Trustee Bonilla.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Student Trustee Hogan,
Yes.
Student Trustee Cooper,
Yes.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins, Trustee Jenkins, are you there? Okay, we'll come back. Trustee Handy,
Yes.
Trustee Delphin Poke,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins, I see you
Yes.
unmuted. Okay, great. Thank you, sir. Trustee Bonilla,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
Trustee Napolia Vallariz.
Yes.
All action items have passed.
Wow. Okay, it's 9:20 and we are at the end of our meeting. So we are at the Board of Trustee reports. Let us go to our student trustees as Trustee Logan. Student Trustee Logan.
Hogan, and no, I don't have anything to report at this time.
Okay, thank you, Student Trustee Hogan.
You're welcome.
Student Trustee Cooper.
Hello, just a moment, let me get that up in front of me. All right. All right, so for my report this evening, shoot, let me brave up to some video here. So yes, I hardly know where to begin. I have 3 items to report. One, the sheer amount of students who have come forward to me with complaints about violations of their rights, discrimination, obstruction of their ability to file grievances, and retaliation in the event that they manage to do so is absolutely staggering. I find one of the single most difficult tasks I face as a student president and a student trustee is trying to encourage students not to give up their voices or belief in their worth and power entirely. As they report everything to me, from being willfully ignored for months or years at a time to explicit retaliations against their efforts to follow up. I have attempted to draw attention to these issues, establish dialogue on them and those that they stem from since 2019, and I have met with little more than performativity and lip service wherever I turn or whatever avenues I seek to serve my peers through, if I even get a reply, even now as a student trustee. Item 2, I have received more emails in a shorter period of time calling for a single focus than I've ever seen from students in my time as a student rep as of late. Students who are terrified for their lives and safety in the face of both sides of positions on the vaccine mandates. There are students who are validly concerned about their bodily autonomy. And there are many students who are validly concerned about this Campus Shield app, which, as I've come to understand, correct me if I'm mistaken, is an honor-based system for confirming that people on campus have in fact been vaccinated. This has led to students complaining about peers openly admitting dishonest use of the app. This is a nuanced issue. I hardly even know a position to take if it weren't for the fact that what this tells me is that it is far too soon to return to in-person learning wherever not explicitly necessary, and is being pushed ahead too quickly. I fear those students who don't feel safe in this situation, who refuse to surrender their autonomy, or who are unable to quickly adjust their life to accommodate a sudden end to their remote learning accessibility. I am additionally unaware of any student involvement whatsoever in the development and implementation of this vaccine mandates policies specifications, despite my repeat efforts to reach out to this very board and its every member to address these matters. And then number 3, there are a number of other issues I fear that there will never be enough time to report, as I have experienced near absolute silence in response to my repeat attempts to address and email my fellow trustees, the chancellor, or anyone else amongst district leadership outside of our own incredibly helpful clerk and my fellow student trustee Hogan. I will note that I recently became aware that I cannot message them all at once under Brown Act. However, while this is the focus of every reply I've received on why I'm not hearing from folks, this only represents some of my efforts to reach out to the district as one of its own board members, not the whole of what has been ignored. I couldn't imagine anything more deeply sustaining of the many concerning issues I have attempted to draw attention to, such as those cited within the Peralta FICMAT report or the Peralta Grand Jury report. In conclusion, as such, I call for the reform of the Peralta District's practices, including and honoring student trustees, other student leaders, and all student voices at whatever opportunity that they get, which I am initiating by calling upon the district to launch a major public student listening session. And I call for the involvement of student leaders in creating that safe space and plan for students to come forward with their experiences and preventing the listening session from becoming like many others hosted within Peralta District as a poorly advertised, performative opportunity for students to be spoken over and have their stories invalidated. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. Trustee Withrow, do you have a report tonight?
Yeah, I passed.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I can now. Trustee Delphine Polk.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. One of the things I just wanted to point out that was on the action items list was the
resolution that Trustee Jenkins and I put forward on Latinx Heritage Month. We're really excited to put that together and put it forward for everybody. So I encourage everyone to take a look. And I look forward to seeing all of the amazing events that hopefully will be planned. And I'd love to attend if anyone has events that are happening either virtually or in person. So just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Jenkins?
Pass.
Okay. Trustee Handy?
Pass.
Trustee Bonilla?
Hi, thank you. I just want to share briefly that I was pleased to hear that there is a project labor agreement research project that is going on in our region. It is in phase 2, meaning that phase 1 was just about grounding research on how public institutions like our community college and other public institutions can negotiate equitable project labor agreements that are student-centered, that are community-centered, that are worker-centered. I look forward to sharing more of this information with the board and with the public as Peralta engages in its own update or refreshing of their project labor agreement. And so it's exciting news, and we'll be sharing more as time moves on. Otherwise, I just want to welcome everybody back, all of my fellow trustees. It's good to be back in front of our community. It's good to see all of the good work that's been taking place while we've been on hiatus. So good job, and look forward to the rest of the semester with you all.
Thank you, Trustee Bonilla, and we look forward to hearing the rest of that, more information about the project labor agreements. Trustee Vice President Gonzalez-Yuen.
Thank you. Gosh, I guess we've been back for about a month now at Peralta, and I, for one, have been grateful to, as a board member, to be able to take a break from board meetings and just do a little bit less. And as I myself head back into the classroom next week, Deanza classes start, I'm really mindful of how many things people in this district are managing, from the basic kind of preparation for our students, trying to get classrooms ready, dealing with air filtration systems that, were woefully inadequate, and trying to get them up to speed to responding to, the day-to-day and the long-term. And it reminds me how grateful I am for everybody who works here. And also how grateful I am for the variety of perspectives that we have on our board. So as much as we ever get irritated with each other, I'm trying to bow to the teacher in all of you, helping me, find patience and wisdom as we try to make this district work. In particular, Chancellor Jackson, I just, you have my gratitude, and I think the gratitude of many, many people in this district, keeping us even. And President Napoli Bellaris, hats off to you for having managed this year so far. Anyway, that just a bit of gratitude was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen. A couple of things. One, there are 3 ACCJC fall webinars that would be wonderful for anybody in our district to attend. They've actually been quite interesting, the webinars from spring and other educational programming events. There's one on leading institutional change to support equity. I'll give this to Sasha so she can send it out or post it with the minutes. The second is demystifying action. And the third is assessment practices for continuous quality improvement, things that are relevant to us, but also relevant all the time because of continuous improvement that we are all very interested in doing. And I just want to echo what Vice President Gonzalez-Yuen had said. It is and I know that I say this a lot, but it is not lost on us the incredible work that each and every one of you have been doing in terms of just the Herculean efforts put forth in getting our colleges, getting the district where it needs to be. It is, I can't even imagine how much work it's been. The results are manifest, they're tangible, they're there, but I know that they just don't appear. And you and your collective efforts, all of you, it's just been incredibly impressive. And I don't think as board members or as other individuals, we don't necessarily see what's happening behind the scenes, but do know that your work is really being seen. And again, incredible gratitude for that, And I do believe that Dr. Jackson would like to close the meeting in honor of Mr. Stein. But before then, do we have any announcements, Vice President?
We have a small handful of announcements, and then I'll hand it over to Chancellor Jackson.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, late start classes are happening right now. So enrollment is open for late start fall 2021 classes for students who drop below minimum enrollment or we're looking for something to pick up. If we could remind these students that we have a range of late start classes, some of which started yesterday, September 13th. Others are starting in October, so people can go to the Peralta website and apply and enroll. Vaccination opportunities on college campuses are plentiful. Tomorrow, Wednesday, September 15 at BCC from noon to 6. This Friday, September 17 at Laney from 1 to 3. And then Laney's offering weekly Friday vaccination clinics through October 1. Walk-ups are welcome, but reservations are also available. Please, let's get our community vaxxed up and safe. For more information, visit safe.peralta.edu. And without any editorializing, I will report that the recall election is done, and it looks like the recall effort has gone down in flames, with over 50% of the vote reporting. So with that nonpartisan note, I will hand the reins over to Chancellor Jackson to close us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Ewing. I'd like to take a moment to celebrate Mr. Jim Stein. He's the Chief Engineer at Peralta TV. And I'd like to show a little short video. It's less than 2 minutes. But I'd like for you to join me in congratulating Jim on his retirement tomorrow after more than 30 years as an employee here at the Peralta Community College District. Many of our trustees know Jim from his years as a board member, a boardroom technical support guy. And Mark Johnson, Angel Hunter, Joe Sullivan, and the Peralta TV team have assembled this short video to honor Jim. So I'd like to close in that honor. I don't do this often, but when we have individuals in the district that have more than 25, 30 years, I think we need to celebrate that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sasha so that we can play the video, and that'll be the conclusion of this meeting. Thank you very much for that personal privilege.
Hi, I'm Jim Stein, currently the Chief Engineer at Peralta TV.
Mr. Jim Stein, Chief Engineer at Peralta TV, is retiring after more than 30 years. Jim came to Peralta in 1986 as a Laney College student. He began volunteering at PCTV, the student-run Peralta College's cable TV station, located in the Laney Tower's 9th floor. By 1990, Jim was hired on as a technician, and he's been keeping the station running ever since. During his 3 decades on the job, Jim Stein managed all broadcast operations and eventually relocated the TV station to a new facility near the district office. Jim took charge of rebuilding the station in this new home. He also built and licensed the Peralta radio station, KGPC FM 96.9. Jim Stein organized a Peralta sports video program and recorded the annual Oakland Holiday Parade. He also served as adjunct faculty at Laney College, teaching video production. In addition to his role as chief engineer, Jim Stein is also head gardener at the Peralta TV Garden. Today we say, congratulations, Mr. Jim Stein, on a Peralta career well done. Happy retirement, Jim.
All right, Jim.
Thank you, President Reese.
We can't hear you, President Napolia Bellaris.
I'll just say that I did meet Mr. Stein one time. And one of the things that he told me after a board meeting is he came over and he said, don't rock in your board chair because it does not look good on TV. And so I took those words to heart because I was rocking in my board chair, and you don't realize how you're being seen on TV when you're doing things that you're not even conscious of. But congratulations, Mr. Stein. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening. Be safe, be well, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Goodbye.
Good night.